Better turn this down.
Oh yeah, I got to always.
Second watch. And there we are. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the second watch. I would say it's a very Merry Christmas second watch, but we're not wearing hats, and Gary's the only one with ornaments. But we're here with Brian. Hey, man, I'm glad you're able to make it.
Yeah, honored and glad to be here. It's been good. You guys have had some great streams last few weeks. It's been good just being a fan and seeing the dialogues.
So, yeah, well, last week with Max, Liao was freaking awesome. Like, we could have kept talking for probably another hour. I gave that guy, well, I shouldn't say I gave him, but like, he was encouraged to have a few drinks with us. He got a couple shots in and he would not stop talking. It was hilarious. But he was great. Like, and that conversation was so good. There were times where Gary and Max were teamed up against me on an issue, and then it was Max and I against Gary, and then Gary and I against Max. It was just, just this great flow back and forth. Yeah, it was good. I'm hoping he would like to come on again. He did mention that. So he is definitely going to be a returning guest for sure. But anyway, so before we get into our topic, I do have some news. Our friends over at the Red Room are closing up shop on their web store because of some tax issues over in Portugal, and all their PDFs are moving to the itch.io. Of course, physical copies of stuff you get through Lulu still, but until the end, let me get to, where is it? Here it is. Until the end of the year, they are running a 50% off the PDFs that they have over at their store. Promo code the end. So go over there, and if you're curious about the Red Room's offerings, you can get, I think, a free copy of the main rules of Wretched and Red. They have two systems. And then by all means, check out some of their stuff. I can recommend a few things here. I'm actually going to enlarge myself so people can see it. I'm a big fan of this Wretched Interbellum. It takes place between the first two world wars. I recommend that one. If you're looking for some like body horror, sci-fi, cyberpunk stuff, Wretched New Flesh is freaking fantastic. It's influenced by like Cronenberg and stuff, and it's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Wow, that's massive.
Yeah, it's got like dark cults and cybernetic implants and psionics and corporate greed and corruption. And demons. It's crazy. And then they have another system called Red, which is a little bit more skill based. I mean, it's still and less OSR, but it's still OSR adjacent, I guess. I am not into kids on bike games, but End of Innocence
that's one he's into those games.
Yeah,
you like the kids on bikes games, don't you? No. You kind of do.
Anyway, this one is actually so good. It's
started. You came on. I don't want to start trouble.
I could have swore that you liked that you mentioned maybe it was a year or two ago that you enjoyed some of the.
There was Tales. Sorry, let him.
Tales from the Loop. Was that it?
Tales from the Loop was
okay. That's what it was.
Yeah. And then this one, Twilight of Empire. I strongly recommend if you are a fan of Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Twilight of Empires takes place in the same time period, 1600s. It's focused on Spain and Portugal. And there are a ton of great rules that you can import into your Lamentations game if you don't want to play strictly Red or Wretched. It's got like alchemy, miracles for your Catholic priests and stuff like that. It's really cool. And you will be able to find my stuff, PDFs, over there as well, 50% off. Isle of the Sapphire God, and Wretched Folklore. So 50% off. The end. Go support our friends over at the Red Room. We would appreciate it. So, and then
Super chat.
oh, we have one. I didn't see it.
Aussie dollars.
Aussie dollars.
Oh,
There you
from
go.
Mercurius. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Good to see you. And yeah, speaking of supporting, please hit like, subscribe if you're over at Rumble. Give me a follow. And I am 17 away from 100 on Facebook. Gaming with Lord Mattias. Go follow me there so I can start streaming to there. And I think that'll actually really help the channel get a larger reach, because there's a lot of OSR guys who still use Facebook, probably because they're older. So, but anyway,
Goes hand in hand.
would appreciate that.
At this point, well, I'm not. Never mind. I don't talk bad about Facebook. You're like, go check out my Facebook, and I was about to say something about Facebook.
I would agree with you, but you know what? Facebook has been pretty damned active. Like,
Yeah,
in
no,
this
that is true.
scene, you know. So
That is true.
But-
Which we're not going to talk about yet. Somebody wanted to talk about Bestiaries. He does. I've seen it. It's not pretty.
Before we jump into monsters, which I'm really looking forward to, but
Sure
how
thing.
have y'all's games been going? Like what sort of gaming y'all been getting in here during the holidays? It's usually always a tough time of year to really kind of coordinate schedules and juggle family and still find time.
Yeah.
You
My
guys got going on.
EZD6 game is on hiatus until January 6th, 5th, something like that. Just and it's not just the holidays, it's that life doesn't stop for the holidays anymore, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got is trying to do something, they've got a project, they've got work, whatever. So
yeah,
we just talked about maybe doing like let's play it by ear, and it's like, you know what, let's just wait until this is
Table
all
it
over.
till after.
Yeah.
I've Chubby son of a
I thought that was Dunder.
Very funny. You son of a gun. Anyway, my game actually, my Gods of the North game is starting to take off. Just at the last session, my buddy Cody showed up. His wife likes to do crafts things, and she's very supportive of the hobby. So he showed up with like a standard of the Iron Price, their mercenary company. So we now have that hanging on the wall.
Cool.
And the guys are now like actually becoming more what's the word I'm looking for here? I'm really tired. It's been a long week, but they become more proactive in terms of downtime. They just technically on Wednesday of this week, the Iron Price returned to Valkengard, so downtime began. We've scheduled our next session for about mid-January, so that's going to give them about 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks. And my phone's been blown up with texts. Hey, when are you going to start addressing downtime? Because I want to do X, Y, and Z and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, and here was the best thing. I mentioned to these guys, because they spent so much time at the last in-game session, like talking about setting up a trade route to this like sun cult and all this other stuff that they didn't really do any adventuring. And I was like, this stuff that could be handled during downtime, guys. That's why I talk about it. And they're like, oh, okay, well, if we're using one-to-one time, could we like set up a game and just to make up for it? And I'm like, yes. And like my heart's all aflutter. I'm like, yes, yes.
They're kind of falling into it, right?
Yeah, it's like, so they're starting to get
that's awesome.
And
that's
so I'm really
great,
excited
man.
about it. And I love and just as an aside, I'll occasionally post like some cryptic thing on X about the Iron Price, and people have been like DMing me. It's like, what is this? What is this? What's going on here? And someone actually wants me to make videos of it. And I'm like, well, they don't want to be on camera. And like, we've almost got a year of this campaign, and I don't know if I could just like start doing a recap. You know what I mean?
I would not. I'm just gonna call it right now. I wouldn't take a camera to your actual real life game. Just don't. You know what I mean? Don't mess with that. Here's the thing. For someone like me who probably couldn't find time for a regular game outside of the house, like I'm still kind of looking for things to go. I'm still like, oh, maybe I could go to this, maybe I go to that. I'm just telling you, don't screw with your
Oh
your
yeah, no,
real life game.
no, I'm with you. I'm with you. It's moving in the right direction. I'm really excited. They're excited. Oh, and one other thing too. So at the last game session, just prior to it, one of the players was like, how are you calculating the return on investments for the bar that we have? Because they made a shit ton of money. I go, well, I'm using Adventure Conqueror King system. He's like, oh, I guess I just don't understand like how you're doing it. So I brought the Imperial imprint and the poplar slipcase, and I like set it down, and they were all like, oh, what is this? I'm like, this is Axe. And I handed it to my one buddy who just hates the rule cyclopedia, and he goes, do you have PDFs of this? I'm like, yeah, I do. He's like, could I just look at them? And I'm like, sure. So we might actually start shifting fully to Adventure Conqueror King as well. So this campaign is about to become fucking amazing, and I mean it already is amazing. But like,
yeah, no, that's great, dude. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. So,
well, I mean,
anyway.
you planted the seeds, and your players are the ones that are fertilizing it with their ideas. And when they start growing and helping you tend to the garden, it makes it easier, and just kind of gives you that inspiration to continue to facilitate.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
what does that say? Your Monday game isn't real life.
Yeah, I was looking at that real life.
Are you talking about the online game you guys do? The internet game? I mean, it's real. You're really playing. I'm not putting that down. I'm just saying that if you're playing a game at a table with people,
right,
and there's no cameras on you, and you're away from computers and phones, that's the ideal.
Yes,
that is the ideal way to play. And I think Brian said earlier, we're 6 months away from North Texas. And like realistically in my life, that might be the next time I play with people like in the same room.
Oh, you mean in person play? Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
it might be it might be that. So
was North Texas the last time you played in person last time?
No, the kids asked me to play not too long ago, which was fun. There was talk of meeting up to play Shadow Dark with these other guys, and like everybody kind of chickened out or whatever. Everybody came up with an excuse not to go.
You said it. I didn't.
Oh, that's
shit.
right.
That's right.
Yep, drink.
I tell you what, I don't think this is the case because we don't have a vast audience like other shows. But if there's anybody that listens to the show that is in Austin, Texas, that wants to get a game going, and you're not like too weird, right? Like, don't be creepy. You know what I mean? You know where to find me. Online first. If you show up at my fucking house, I'm gonna punch you in the nose.
Being weird is a prerequisite to gaming in Austin, though. It kind of is.
You know what? It's funny because I was thinking of that the other day. There's a couple places that do there's like a Saturday morning game at this one place that I was really intrigued by because it said old school. I don't know what system they're playing, but I know the place. And I just feel like I would destroy their vibe. Like
you would destroy their illusion of what they think old school is, or like
I think I don't know that I just don't think I would fit in as a person in general. You know what I mean?
That's sad to say.
Yeah,
I'm sure you would.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would fit in as a person and a player. You're very adaptable, and you assimilate.
Yeah, no,
well.
Yeah.
I'll
explain. I don't want to say anything.
Well, that's fine. No, I get it. No, I'm just gonna say though, but between the two of us, I jokingly tell, especially my wife, I'm like, Gary's the one with the higher charisma between the two of us. So like I frankly think you can make friends with just about anybody.
I try.
I'm an acquired taste, apparently.
Well, here's the thing. I try really hard to be friendly and make friends with everybody, but man, it gets hard sometimes. Sometimes
Yeah.
people don't really want to be friends, right? I mean, that's just the way
Sure.
it is.
Yeah.
So, but I did a walkthrough of Dragon's Lair out of nowhere. I was supposed to be Christmas shopping for the kids, but I stopped by Dragon's Lair, and they had a big sign for like DCC Day or something like that.
Oh,
I
that's
was like,
cool.
what?
That's great.
Of
Yeah.
all the games,
Yeah.
right? Like, I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of wild. So, anyway, what are we doing tonight, lads?
Monster.
Yeah, no, Brian, we were talking in our private chat on Discord, and we started talking. You mentioned something about Bestiaries. Like, why don't we start? Like,
Also, behind the
why did?
scenes, real quick, me and Matt don't have a private chat. Like, me and Matt don't have a channel where we're like talking, hey, da 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 da. No, me, Matt, and DM Cloaker, who shows up 10 minutes before every 20 shows.
Right? Yeah.
He's in the private chat too.
Yeah. So it's the three of us. Yeah, chit chatting, and
It's good stuff, though. It's great. We always have good dialogues to kind of,
always works
because
out.
yeah. So
but like, why, kind of brought about the idea of like talking about monsters and bestiaries and whatnot? Like, what was like the impact, like, or impulse, or the precipitating event where you're just like, hey, I feel like talking about this.
I remember when we were around Halloween, it always naturally comes up that's always kind of a theme in the hobby, right? Is kind of what are the creepy crawlies or the provocateurs that you bring in. And you guys had so many great guests on that I think it just kind of fell by the wayside a little bit as an idea and a topic. It's always fun whenever like you get the idea to bring something new into your game as a GM. More often than not, that's probably house rules or cool mechanics, like you're mentioning, like what you were talking with Axe and the Iron Price, and like you've got something. It provokes something that you want to possibly promote at your table or present for your players. The great thing about monsters is it doesn't require any sort of accord, with your players. You don't have to ask them about bringing in it. You just
Yeah, that's a good
do it.
point. Yep.
And kind of like what player options and power creep and all the lamentations that GMs sometimes have with all the things that players sometimes try to do to min max or power game, quote unquote. Our counter, our toolbox is monsters. And I think it's always kind of fun because when we were all beginning little baby GMs, we read something somewhere, saw a picture of something somewhere, had some lore, and it started. Like it began. Like what can I create with Gamorrean guards?
Yeah.
Can I
Right.
make a monk that's a Gamorrean guard? I came up with that idea at West End Games, but yeah, I mean, monsters are usually kind of the thing that really provokes the curiosity and the imagination, even more so than I think sometimes even magic. Because magic sometimes like the unknown, like what does it look like? With monsters, there can be some great descriptors with no art needed. I don't know where did you guys first cut your teeth on when it came to monsters or
see,
creatures in gaming?
I was gonna say, hey, we just got a super chat real quick.
Merry
From Robert
Christmas, Robert.
Santon. Merry Christmas and happy holidays, everyone. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you as well. Yeah, actually, this is going to be our last stream before Christmas, but we will be here next week for the final show before the new year. So that'd be the 26th. And we're going to do a Barrows and Borderlands giveaway next week. Matthew Tapp gave me an extra copy. So I want to give that away to some of y'all, but we'll talk about that at another time. But anyway, Robert, thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you and yours.
So, Brian, when you brought up the monster thing, it was funny because as we got closer to the show, I started looking through my books, realizing that monsters, like I typically use a monster, right? Or I use like a group of the same kind of monster. It's just a pattern of mine or whatever. So I started going back and I started looking. So first I went to BX. I'm like, there's no pictures. Meh. And then
I was thinking we're gonna put a pin on that. I'm gonna come back to because I was thinking of you.
And then I went to Beck Me, and I'm like, fuck, no pictures here either. Like the red book, and then and then I opened up a PDF of the AD&D Monster Manual, and I remember every single one of those pictures. Every
It's
like
like a
just
family album.
yeah, just going through there. So
It's
we
my
had said
aunt,
something
my
about
cousin. It's a cloaker.
originally it was like, what's your favorite bestiary? And I got to tell you, I'm not like I thought. You know what? I should look at Fiend Folio again. I should look at because I remember I think I liked it. I know I liked the cover. I know I like the
Cover was
cover at
very
least.
memorable. Yeah, yeah.
But the thing about monsters is you're right. They're the it's it's the tool that we use to kind of slow the player, kill the players, or what have you. So there's a lot of different aspects of monster that you can like, right? I tend to get lost in the what does it look like? How cool is it going to be to fight this? And I don't always think about those things like, is it fair? Is it appropriate to level? Is it,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But that's
I
anyway. First
yeah.
edition AD&D Monster Manual. That's the one. That's the
I
one
can
I
dig
flipped
it.
through as a kid.
Just gonna go back to something you said, like I don't know, like a little flick of a flame of intelligence in my brain here, but it almost feels like when we talk, when you watch game master advice channels and people talking about, people really don't talk about. I feel like people don't talk about monsters all that much, but when you really think about it, that's our main tool, isn't it? Right? Like
It's a big
this
one.
is how we're gonna create, whether it's like an emergent story or an adventure path. This is the thing that's going to, one of the major things that's going to create the story, whether
Is it
again, whether it's
though?
an, I think so. Well,
I
let's
think
let's
for here's the thing. This is what I'm going to say. I would think that for because you like the whole grim dark, everything is horrible, sad, 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 horror kind of thing.
well,
Um, yeah,
I
a
just
little,
art reflects life, Gary.
sure. Um, like I would say the monster's key, but sometimes to me the monster is just an obstacle.
Well, that's
Like the
true.
players have a
I'm not
goal, and I'm
saying,
just these are just speed bumps. I
yeah, I
sometimes I
wasn't.
don't even care.
Yeah, well, I wasn't trying to make like categorically like the monsters are this thing, but they are a major tool for developing whatever it is that you're going to be doing. War plots. Good to see you, man. And yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. And the trauma we create
Trauma.
with,
Wow.
and we got someone on Rumble, Atomic Snack. I used to the ADDMM before bed. Read. Oh, that I said it's a T. It kind of confused me when I was a kid. Really pissed off my brother who was DMing. Fantastic. Um,
It's like cheating on the test, isn't it? Back then, it's like
this is
all
what
of
I
the
deal with, Chubby. Anyway, but I do think the talking about the monster and the monster manuals and how we use them is actually it's just I don't think people talk about it enough. It just dawned on me. I just really don't think that they do, and it's one of the reasons why I dovetailed the topic of this conversation in with encounter building, because I don't do preset encounters really anymore, other than like what's in Gods of the Forbidden North, right? When they walk into this X and there's something there, I just do everything on the fly now, which is a lot of fun. But anyways, well, but we can get into that. But uh, first,
do you
go
think
ahead.
that the reason why that there's probably not as much discourse back and forth around like monster or creature design is because so much of it is system predicated, or because so much of it is whatever the need for the lore or the setting, or we're more apt to talk about as GMs, like how to represent or play it out and integrate it with whatever the design of it all is, rather than the actual creature itself. I mean,
Chubby just telegraphed what I was about to say. Pretty much. I agree. People talk a lot about general ideas. Very rarely do they dig down to actual specified practice at the
yeah,
table, which is what we're trying to do here in the second watch. I just think the monsters, and again, this is going back to this little spark of insight based on what you opened this whole topic up with, is I think the role playing game, the encounter with whether it's a monster or just an adversary, is taken for granted. It's just sort of like, yeah, this is what we do. We fight monsters, whether it's like a
That's
cyberpunk game and it's like a biker gang with kids or whatever, or it's like Goblin Warren, or it's some space Hulk with like xenomorphs running around. We just sort of take it for granted, and we probably shouldn't. And this will be a good segue into one of my favorite bestiaries, the only one that you'll ever need, frankly. It's the random esoteric creature generator for classic fantasy role-playing games and their modern simulacra by James Edward Raggi the Fourth. That's the full title, folks. It's giant block text. It's got this awesome cover, and all this is just random tables to design a monster. But James also goes into, and I totally forgot about this because it's been a while since I really looked at it. He goes into and gives you advice on putting it all together, creating this like encounter that's going to be memorable, terrifying, and memorable for your players. Yeah, I kind of wish I had this thought prior to the stream, so I would have more to talk about, because I'm sort of discovering this idea now as we talk about this, because like the monster is, and we should use the word adversary. The adversary is so important to whether it's a random
well,
encounter
don't you
or
pick that first?
no.
See,
I don't.
So here's the thing.
Not with my Gods of the North game.
No, but if you're putting, let's say we go to the guys, like I think my personal belief is most people are using their own campaign world and doing their own dungeons. I don't know why I believe that. I just do. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like that's what you're supposed to do. So, but I mean, people just throw monsters into rooms, right? Let's see here. Context just finished a COC one shot, which involved Joragumo, a horror spider from Japanese mythology. Trust me, some players were traumatized, but they liked it.
That sounds awesome. Call of Cthulhu. Fantastic. Great.
The epitome of likable trauma.
So. Yeah, but I think, Matt, I think that's wise because we do just expect there to be monsters. And occasionally you see somebody try to make sense. Gary's wrong about what? Oh God, Matt, do you have Raji that far up your bum? What am I wrong about, Chubby? Oh wait, I was supposed to ignore you and not let you sidetrack the show.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think Chubby. We've got to toss
Chubby,
monsters in every room, and I think a lot of people, that's just monsters are just, they're like game pieces. Oh, I need some of this and some of this.
And you know what though?
I think very rarely do they pay attention to why the monster is there. What the fuck are they doing there? Why would this monster be next to this monster? That kind of shit.
I think I agree with that, and I think that actually is one of the reasons why maybe some people find like dungeon crawls not fun, because it's just, I walked into the room and there's 4 orcs there. I walk into the next room and there's, I don't know, 3 hobgoblins. I walk into the next room and there's a trap with like a goblin snickering at me or whatever, right? And I think the monster needs to be, this is going to sound so DEI or whatever, but we need to understand the monster. Like what is up with that monster and why are they Chubb, Brian, you got a fan.
I missed him. I think you hit on a few things that kind of, so when you talk about that dissonance, where to players, whether they're new to the game, and that randomness of just, it can be, if it's gonzo and they kind of know that, then after maybe a few encounters they kind of start to get acclimated to it. But it is a disconnect for a lot of players. They start to see it as just like this staging. And it's really kind of the flip side of the coin of what it feels like with our dissonance sometimes, if we have like a setting or a genre or an idea a little bit of what things are going to be within a group, like quote unquote, like your iron price. Well, if somebody brought in, an impish bardy, type of mischief, Burt Reynolds, the bandit type of character into that, is it something that kind of lacks cohesion? And when something lacks cohesion, then you start to lose engagement. and then things just kind of feel kind of procedural. And for me, and somebody mentioned trauma and monsters, and for me, yeah, DM Cloaker, yeah, the very first creature to kill me in a tabletop role playing game was in uh, Secret of the Slaver's Stockade, and it was a Cloaker. And so, yeah, it stuck with me. I was like, okay, I want to get into this hobby and learn about these things that can do that. So there was a few other frames that you guys were mentioning. It's monsters and creatures as inspiration,
Yes.
implementation, like how does it play out with whatever the context is. Um, and so sometimes we kind of process that as GMs after we get some reps. Representation, like what is it actually going to start to be conveyed to the player, which you can use art or descriptors. But the most important element for us when we start thinking about adversaries, Matt, like what you were saying, is what's the situation. So the inspiration will only carry you so far. Implementation, you need to know how it works. I'm sure there's something in that Raji book that you can speak to on why it's a good bestiary. What makes that functional beyond the randomization? How does it suit the needs of maybe, like, where do you see the value in that beyond just the themes, which we know that's what that game does so well. But as a GM, like, I haven't read it, so I don't know, but now I want to.
Well, he goes into combat tactics, right?
Okay.
I mean, he talks about. I mean, it really is. Like, I haven't read this in a while, so I just picked it up though because it is something that I think is just great, and I will like when I am looking for like to create something unique, which I haven't had to do in a while. This is my go-to, right? Um, but he does a fantastic job in understanding what the monster is supposed to be. Now, I don't know if this will work in your standard fantasy game because James Raji and I do agree with this philosophy is that the monster should be something that's different, weird, unexpected, which helps heighten the tension and the terror and the horror and the scariness of it, right? So that's why a lot of Lamentations modules, like you're gonna have like this like one big thing, or if it's a group, it's like just this one group that you're dealing with, right? And it's weird, and you're just like, what the hell is going on, right? And that's the kind of the philosophy that you get from like sort of like we'll call it the essays in here. But the random tables are more than just like it's got a +2 to AC, it does a DA, it's got like body shapes and like disposition and stuff like that. So it's really you can kind of like create this thing that will trigger your creative, get the creative juices flowing, right? So um I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it for that because like I just reading it, you just see this like one entry, and maybe that one entry just creates this whole thing. You just put the book down. You don't need to roll any further. You know what I mean? So
But I also imagine because you're so steeped in the ethos of that whole system, and you're able to make it come to life at the table. You're able to make it work mechanically, and to represent it and present it to your players to where maybe it's always something to be defeated, but maybe it's something to be avoided, or maybe it's something to be engaged with. Like, you're probably so proficient at that point because you've spent the time. You went through and you've probably had so much of that. I mean, I don't know how many times you've had to use that book at the table, or the practicality of implementation, but I'm sure after 10 times, 15, 20 times, like, you start to get your groove and you're
oh
able
yeah,
to kind of come up with
yeah.
something. And then, it's something that's wholly unique, obviously. So,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, but I think a lot of the monster stuff, especially like the way I run games now, which was different from back in the day. I'm a more of a no prep DM now. Um, I think how do I want to say this? Like intrinsically linked to the monster is how the encounter is built, right? Like bumping into a group of goblins that your initial reaction roll indicates they're friendly is going to create a very different encounter from one who a group of goblins that are hostile, right? um and I think that kind of goes a long way with not just that encounter but what could have consequences to the rest of the story, especially in an emergent context. Does that make sense?
Totally does, and especially with that book as a reference that you're kind of speaking to, what I'm trying to imagine is like for what you just said there, does that bestiary, that manual, which it looks like it's probably like maybe about 60 to 90 pages, pretty lean.
It
Um,
is 43 pages.
43 pages. Wow. Okay. So like really probably easy table book to use. Yeah, that's pretty that evokes a certain understanding of the
Yeah.
game that you're
Yeah.
playing. Hey, here, look at this. But so whenever it comes to playing it out at the table, like all those other elements that are not necessarily always just shock and awe or just time to murder one another, does that book provide some tendrils for that or some guidances, or is it purely just like this is something to bring into things because now it's time to do that thing?
Probably the latter rather than the former. Like when I would when I use this book, when I have used this book, it's because I'm like creating like an adventure site,
Mm,
and this is the creature that's there,
okay.
right? Um, I have yet to use this like on the fly, and I don't know if I want to do that on the
Oh
like
wow.
on the
Okay.
fly because there's just a lot. It's like you
Yeah.
got like a 2D 100 table in here. Okay, there's just a lot, you know. But if I wanted to have like a quick, yeah, I needed like create like a quick dungeon. Like let's take Shadow Dark, drink,
Here we go.
do my dice drop, right? Start drawing all the rooms of the of the dungeon, and then instead of using her bestiary at the back of the Shadow Dark book, just start rolling something up like
Totally.
this. You know what I mean? And then I have like this crazy monster that the players have never seen before. And some of the advice that Raji puts in here is try to use the monsters only once. Now, again, this is arguing from a different ethos. You
Mm,
used that word earlier, where monsters are incredibly rare and unique.
sure.
Probably not something you're going to want to use for a standard fantasy game unless you're looking for something unique
Truly
to throw at your
extraordinary.
players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So
it dilutes it, right? I mean, that particular type of bestiary is highly curated in what it's trying to accomplish. You've identified it as such. So whenever you use it, it sounds like it's one of the genesis phase of you creating whatever that is for your players to respond to see how it goes. So Gary, what I'm really interested in you because you move between systems so much. And for a game to attract your attention is one thing, but you've probably had more exposure to all the different potential, critters and things that to throw at players or that get your brain going. Like, how do you even start to
I
assess whether a system's
real
bestiary is
well, here's the thing, and this is really for the past few days I've really been thinking about this. My bad guys typically aren't monsters.
they're all human
My bad
or
guys
or,
are
or
typically
humanoid?
they're typically human or humanoid or a human created problem, or you know what I mean, something like that. Only when I'm playing OSC
Fantasy.
and only when I'm playing fantasy are monsters super important to me. And I use the random tables. I really, and that, here's the thing, when I'm designing a dungeon, I start with the monster, right? A lot of times, because then that explains why the other monsters are there, right? It explains, like, if you start with that, it can lay out, it gives you all the logic for your dungeon. And dungeons are not my favorite, and I'm not a big fan of that trope.
I don't think the majority of current gamers it is their preferred. I think it's a novelty for the
Well,
most part for modern
and
gamers.
here's the thing. I get ruins. That makes sense to me.
Yep.
Caverns, layers. I'm down with all of that. The dungeon is odd. Now, I like how Macros has kind of set it up, and you see it in a few other places where dungeons are built by, magic users to attract monsters, and you harvest the body for, like, okay, that's cool, right? And that works in some settings. But for the most part, the dungeon itself, and I know people who love it, man. We've got two really good friends who are putting out really good dungeons. I've put out, or I haven't put out, sorry. Xenos, scary, humanoid, not monsters, are called Xenos. Sure.
Based for the
Yeah,
Emperor.
so
Gary, do you think that's because of a lot of the sci-fi you've done, and because naturally, like
well, and
alien species are
I was just
Okay.
thinking about that because as you guys know, I am heavy deep right now into Stars Without Number, right? And there's a very limited like bestiary, but for the most part, it's like a list of traits. Not traits, like there's human, martial human, soldier human, and then there's a list of tags you can put on them to alter. And I kind of think that, yeah, because that's sci-fi and modern. Like if you look at if you're running a modern game and all of a sudden you have like a monster encampment, well, the whole world's going to change because it's got to be one monster. I don't know. I guess it's humans are fucking horrible, right? Like humans are horrible enough. And also with humans, you get to talk to the bad guy, right? So I like that. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, no, that's absolutely on point because it's the interaction piece too, right? If you're all you're doing is just swinging or firing a weapon at something that
Fucking
doesn't have
cheating.
any other engagement, yeah, it kind of loses its
Well,
luster after the seventh or eighth time.
well,
But
that's why I think one of the biggest problems I have as a player, because I've been game mastering for so long. I actually have to try to like bite my tongue because I'll watch game masters run an encounter and I'm just like sitting inside my head. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, this is not how you should be doing it. Um that's just how I think, and I bite my tongue and I just play along, but like, just this is just not how I would do it, because I think when game masters approach the encounter, they're not looking at they're confusing, or they're not looking at the forest, right? They're just too busy looking at the trees and the procedure, especially in like the OSR context. To me, the surprise roll, the encounter distance roll, and the disposition of the monster, friendly, indifferent, whatever, all that needs to be like processed by the game master before they say you encountered 7 goblins, right?
I want to make sure I
All
understand. You're saying before you start the session or
no
before you present it in the
play.
See,
session?
Yes,
okay,
before I
hold on. I
present it.
agree. Matt, I agree with you, but I also think that a great way to do that is to pre-roll some encounters.
You don't
and
need to. You don't
and
need
you
to. If
bristle. No, 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 no. Wait, you do. You might. You might. You might want to look at something. You might have a different chart for this region or that region or whatever. And when I mentioned pre-rolling encounters to you, you lost your mind. You were like, no,
no, you
mother.
don't need to. Well, no, if you need to
Yeah,
pre-roll, I'm not going to like think you're a terrible person or you're, whatever. I just
right.
think you should trust yourself, especially if you've been running games for a while. Trust yourself to do the no prep. Like, when my players, like, okay, great example. All right, so I had a couple months ago, the Iron Price suffered some heavy losses. They lost 7 of their original 8 retainers and 2 player characters. What was happening? Well, they were hex crawling. They were trying to get to, I can't remember where they were going. Oh, they were going to this place called the Pinga Mine because they heard there were gems there. Well, the hex right before the Pinga Mine, I rolled a random encounter, and it ended up being a chimera. Okay. And in Gods of the North, up to 4 can appear at one time. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's like so lethal. But anyway, but it was just one chimera. They were able to fight it off and defeat it, but they were the way it was aggressive when I rolled its initial disposition, and they weren't surprised, and the counter distance was pretty average. So I just quickly on the fly said, okay, so they found this thing. The treasure table said it had some treasure. So I quickly said, well, why would there be treasure here? So I described a merchant caravan the thing had just decimated and killed. And so that's where they found some of the treasure. Well, then my players were like, well, I wonder if it's got a lair nearby. And I'm like, okay, these assholes are looking for more treasure. Fair enough. So I rolled the 1d4. I got 3. Well, they already killed one of them. So there's 2 left that I decided that's going to be at this, uh, cavern. And there would be more treasure there, depending on what was rolled. I was rolling all this on the fly. None of it was. So then, of course, they find they do some tracking and all this other stuff, and then they find it, and of course they make the foolish mistake. I go, all right, guys, you find this cavern, there's bones everywhere, kind of like from the Monty Python and the Holy Grail with the bunny, right? I'm like, there's bones and everything. They're like, and I'm like, you're pretty sure this is the Chimera lair? And then I love my friends. I've known them for like 30 years, but man, this was the dumbest fucking thing they've ever done. That I go, so what do you do? And they're like, well, we go in there.
But you telegraph the lethality.
Yeah, right. So they decide to walk in there.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? They failed the surprise roll, and 2 chimeras came out, breathed fire, and wiped out two-thirds of them like that. So
You
then they
gave
ran.
clear tells. There was environmental signs.
Yep.
The consequences were born from that, and I know you were both kind of having the tilt or the seesaw on to prep beforehand or to have it in session. I think there's benefit to both. If your players see you sometimes engage in a random generation state, you'll find that sometimes with repetition, that trust factor starts to grow because they kind of see that you're in it with them. Like, okay, my GM is also kind of working through this. Okay, we're going to discover it together. But
Yeah.
then also to Gary's point, I mean, we're creating situations, and that's ultimately what all of this should always be about. And I think it ties in. You guys are actually agreeing because whenever you are rolling for morale, when you are rolling for distance, when you are rolling for the attitude or disposition, you're creating the situation. We just have to interpret it through that. But does a bestiary do that? Does it give us some of that framework? Maybe a little bit. Or if you're
Um,
like, what's the monsters know what they're doing? The Keith, uh, Amon. The monsters know what they're doing. Like that. That's a book that really details a lot of
yeah.
what creatures do in combat,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really sometimes lay into maybe some of the stuff like if Gary's going from worlds or stars without number and he's going to these civilizations and choosing one thing like this tribe of scaly folk that can speak perfectly in a way that I don't know. I think you guys are not
One.
in disagreement. I think it's just
No, no,
different
no. I
ways.
Yeah.
don't think
No. And
I don't think we're in
yeah.
disagreement. I just think we look at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's
fair.
always one of those things. It's not necessarily like what's the story. A lot of times, it's just what's happening. Like, so there's this idea that like the players move the campaign forward, and I agree with that. But there's also this idea that the players are the only ones who move the campaign forward,
Which I
right?
kind of disagree with.
Which I do disagree with, right?
Yeah.
Like there are
Yeah.
things
I'm in
happening.
agreement with your disagreements.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we all disagree.
I don't believe in. I know this is a bit of a tangent, but I don't believe in supreme player agency. The game master gets to have fun too.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Maybe
just saying
agency
that
is not the right word, but I
yeah,
get
it's
I
not
get I think we know what
it's
we're
not
saying.
it's not
Yeah.
static. It's not
Yeah.
static. So anyway,
But
go ahead.
to some
Brian, I love when you come to host the show. Please keep us on track.
I know.
Well,
I think
so
based on everything in the chat, I think they like it when Brian hosts
I was
the
gonna
show.
oh
Brian's YouTube channel is
no, but it is cool to look at through all the different lenses sometimes as peers in what we try to do because it's very fascinating to start like considering like ecology and settlements and the rumors that abound from that and really most important like the friction that can happen when these things start to collide whether it's something fantastical and Cthulhian or whether it's just strange new worlds or whatever it might be. But I think there's also a point when we're talking about bestiaries, like how do we gain an understanding of what makes a good one versus one that's just brain fuel or one that's just pretty to look at, that
well, I
has,
Yeah.
think
has great art.
bestiaries, I think the best bestiaries are brain fuel.
I would agree with that. In fact,
Sure.
and again, like I just haven't, and maybe this is just me, I just haven't really thought that deeply about it, but I'm glad we have this topic. Um, Not to brag on Shadow Dark, but I don't like that bestiary. I really don't. I mean, I get the pithiness and it's real quick, easy reference, and I can do, but it assumes a lot. Like if I was a brand spanking new kid who's interested in role playing games and I picked up Shadow Dark, I'd be like, what do I do with this goblin? Sure, I could be creative and do my own thing and figure it out, blah, 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 blah. But you know what I miss? And I wrote down a note, the second edition 3-ring binders. Those
Oh,
bestiaries were
the
yeah, the
compendiums
monster
from yeah,
manual, because like
2E.
you
Those are
could
great.
pull them out and take them with you because you knew you're going to use these monsters, right? But you had the description, combat tactics, habit, ecology, all this stuff
Yeah.
and that's the brain fuel, right? Like there was so much you could do with, like, when I read um Bugbear for the first time, and there was like this cool image of this like bugbear laden out with stuff. I'm like, these are not just like some random orc type creatures or whatever. These are like fucking mercenaries. Like they're like these I could see these guys like in the seedy parts of town looking for work, you know what I mean? Which I don't know if you'd get that from some like little pithy little, block text that's about this big on the page, So I don't know. If I were to say what would I want to see in a bestiary is something like that. And on that note, my second favorite bestiary is this one. It's called
I,
A Bestiary of Sundry Creatures. I mean, this is more historical, but all the entries are like medieval authentic in a sense. So like tells you like what medieval people thought of.
What publisher is that?
This is Postmortem. This is Grim Jim. He didn't write it, but he was like involved in it somehow. But really, really cool book if you're looking for something medieval, authentic. It's also written for Morkborg as well. But anyway,
Gary, have you ever bought a bestiary? Like
yeah.
in the last 20, 25 years, have you ever been like, oh, I want to buy this monster book?
The Axe 2 monster. In fact, I was just about to bring that up.
Oh yeah, let's talk about it.
It's good. It gives a good description. There's art for I think almost maybe everything, if not almost everything. It gives a good description so you kind of understand the creature better. I was gonna say that one is that's like an informative bestiary, I guess.
Okay.
Right? Like you get like all those things Matt's talking about that he wants, you get, but that's Acts 2, man. Right?
Well,
Like
that checks out with Macris
he's gonna
and his
explain some
approach.
shit,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's just the way it goes. But I think that's
Is it easy to use in the moment as a
I
reference?
mean, it's alphabetical. It's you know what I mean. It's
Gary's like,
what
he goes A to Z. That's all I need.
yeah, I mean, what do you need? Yeah, so that's fine. But I do have to say that like I say, in my mind, role-playing games, the dungeon master is creating the world, and a lot of times you're creating the creatures itself. So as good as these bestiaries are, they typically don't go unaltered, at the very least.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna get all Hassan Piker up in this bitch and put a shot collar on my animals. Bitch, you've been jumping all over me since go. What is your problem?
Representing the creatures, representing the monsters, right there. So the beasts of the world.
Now she's gonna terrorize the dog. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think it goes without saying, game master can tweak whatever they want to tweak, right? Like, but to Brian, your point, like what kind of a bestiary, like what would we need to help like really spur some ideas? Oh, that's right, Brian.
Yeah.
What is your favorite?
Sometimes you could probably say like it depends on the system, because like I don't know, like you think about like what's the bestiary for a game like Free League Alien. I imagine the bestiary is probably not that big, because we kind of already know what the primary beast is. I don't know, but I bet it's cool. for me, I don't know if considering that I supposedly all the diagnosis afforded over a couple of years of Chat GPT has told me that I am an OSR GM. I asked it earlier this week because of our earlier conversation. So I said, just
Oh
break it down
shit.
for. So I started thinking,
Oh,
okay, well, how did that play into how I use bestiaries a lot? Because I do a lot of in the moment generative randomization, and I try to be very transparent with my tables and my players that are both very inexperienced or very, very experienced. And so that they kind of see that it removes the adversarial moment of where they think I've engineered something that
right.
is just to deliberately antagonize or debilitate them. And instead it's kind of like, oh wow, okay, well this is what we're dealing with. Okay, we're all in the circus together. But I also, cognitive load is a real thing.
Yep.
So it's probably the reason why my floor system is Kelsey's system, whereas my dream ceiling system would probably be like an Axe 2 if I had more years of my life and I didn't have a book that I could commit a felony with because it was so heavy. Um, but um,
Yeah.
but so like this is my honorable mention recently, and actually was a recent Kickstarter. It's just basically a compilation of all the Pathfinder bestiaries for
Mm.
Shadow Dark. It's called Shadow Finder. Gary, when I opened this book, my very first thought, I swear on my kittens, my first thought was Gary would hate this, and I'll tell you why. I'll show you
Oh
why.
shit. There's no art.
There's no art.
Nah, fuck all that.
Oh,
There's
wow.
not a single bit of
I would.
page
Oh
count as
fuck.
art. But well, hold on. I mean, it is almost 500 pages of
See.
something that allows me to not have to overthink where and how am I going to implement this? If I'm going to go ahead and look at a lurker above, hey, how fitting DM Cloaker finds his sister species here. Lurker above, gray cave dweller flies down and smothers prey, male
Do
lurking gray,
you?
ungainly flyers. It gives me what I need and I can run with this. I think of this through the lens, not just at my time of, 45 years of running games, but also the new GM. Can a new GM be able to make this work at a table? And
You need
I
the art.
absolutely believe so. So,
Let
well,
me let
and
me
I'm not saying you're wrong because the art is a great, fun, wonderful thing to look at. And a lot of modern gamers, art is what they thrive off of because they're so visually stimulated. But
all right, I will actually have something to
runner up,
say to
though, this is not my main one. This is my runner up. Go
Super
ahead,
chat,
Pat.
We
Brian.
got a super chat from Mike. Mike, thank you so much. $5. Well, $4.99, whatever. I'd really like to see all three of you guys run more actual plays. Those are great additions to the regular show. We might actually talk a little bit more about this at the end of the year stream. But maybe I'll just throw it out to you guys and let me know what you want to see more on this channel. But the algorithm on YouTube does not like actual plays, especially if you're doing other stuff on. So I've been moving actual plays over to Rumble. But I thank you very much, sir. That's very kind of you. I think Gary does a great job. I've gained with Brian as well. I think these guys are great game masters. It would be great to do more, so you guys can see see what we do. But anyway, back to this thing. You know how earlier in the conversation we were talking about how monsters just sort of seem to be these things that you put in.
Hey,
What?
I've been trying to chime in real quick, and I'm
All
sorry
right,
I
go
know
Yeah,
I'm
ahead.
in a
come on,
good
Gary. Yeah,
spot. But
yeah.
Go ahead.
before you go off on another thing, uh, I can't even read right now because I've had 2 drinks. Somebody brought up Googling art. You can Google for art, and you can Google for art, and that is something that, as much as I hate to say it, everybody has a fucking phone in their hand all the time. And the kids, you brought up, is this usable for a new player? Well, of course, you can just fucking get on your phone and get a picture of, whatever, or have AI make you a picture, right?
Yeah.
So whatever, I guess that's fine. But if I'm gonna buy a physical product to put in my home that is a bestiary, I
Yeah.
want fucking art in that thing.
Yeah.
I don't want a document that size just sitting around my house. And on that note, I'm gonna get another drink.
All right. I actually am going to agree with Gary on that. Though I
I
will
agree with
go,
Gary too, because we know he's an artist at heart. So
yeah,
obviously it's something that's always going to, I mean, this is a guy who probably, made a decision on albums based on how much work went into the production of that album. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So like, and
yeah.
that's absolutely, warranted.
Well, yeah, I mean, it also helps spur the imagination. Again, just going
It's
back
the
to some
inspiration frame, right? It's in the
like
inspiration
this
frame.
this is going to be a little graphic, but like this is from the Lamentations one. I mean, it's
That's
pretty freaking horrific,
pretty
right? But
spicy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So,
Spicy meatball,
but it
Matthew.
gets you thinking. So, but I want to go back to the book you just showed. I would say I would argue, and I am going to argue. I think pretty persuasively, by the way. Um, that mini little block text actually creates the environment of I move to this room, I fight this monster, I move to this next room, I fight this monster, and like it's a board game. Uh, and that's why I'd like to see a little bit more in a bestiary. I like what the first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons book, the second edition three ring binders where you get all this information. You don't have to use it all, but it gets you thinking. When it's just this little block text with a little descriptor, you know what I
It,
mean?
it's interesting because if you're thinking of the monster or the creature itself as the centerpiece, then I totally get it, right? It's not enough meat on the bone. But sometimes it's not always the centerpiece of whatever the setting or the scene is or the situation. Sometimes monsters and creatures are tertiary. They might actually be more of an obstacle to what the true resolution is, or in some cases an asset. But um the idea of it being easy to implement at the table, because we are playing a game, I think it's different degrees of measure, because your comfort level is much different than somebody who's only been playing, in the last 5 years.
Well, I think it's a
And
balance at that point, right?
it's totally a balance. It's a balance between confidence and competence. And that's a tilting axis that even we as experienced game masters, sometimes there's a time whenever we adopt a new system, like we're going through the confidence competence seesaw on our own of
Yeah.
where am I in this to make it work so that it lands, because there's nothing more deflating than spending that amount of time creating a situation beforehand or in the moment, and then it falls flat and it just feels like you wasted 20 or 40 minutes in something that just really did not feel like a compelling reason to invest that amount of time mechanically or narratively. Welcome back,
Yes.
Gary.
I agree. Sorry about that. I had to make a joke. It got complicated in there. Got complicated in that kitchen, gentlemen.
Because there is such a
Lines.
thing as monster bloat, like in terms if you start to go down
Oh
the
yeah.
rabbit hole,
Well,
and you can
yeah.
get so
I
lost in
think
some.
I think one of this was a problem with second edition TSR in general, but they at one point after three monster manuals, they all of a sudden you had the Dragonlance monster manual inserts, the Forgotten Realms, character, all this stuff, Spelljammer, and it's just like at some point, and I know I had this realization, it was like the same monster just kind of reskinned a little bit,
Sure.
you know what I mean? And at this point, I'm just kind of like, why did I buy this? So
It
I
was
don't.
there was a lot. Everything still felt familiar. It was just reskinned, to your point, and all they really were, let's call it what it was for 2E in that time, is they were just DM splat books.
Yeah.
They were just for you to be able to bring in and just have something new to spend money on. But um, I think just kind of like in a quick summary on what I do really enjoy now at this stage. Um, is right now, this is probably my favorite bestiary right now, probably over the last couple of years. Skirples, the monster overhaul. And it not only has great utility, it gives you a lot of easy to use at the table integration of the very things, Matthew, that you're always wanting to see happen, which is these elements that give the unknown, that cannot be easily determined, that require your players to think about, can I survive this? Can we exploit this? Or should we ignore it? Like, this book does that really, really well. And I kind of use
What's it called again?
It's called the Monster Overhaul.
Okay.
And it actually it's a practical bestiary by Skirples, which I love that because I like practicality. Sure, who doesn't feel that? But there's a litmus that I kind of use because I run mainly fantasy more than anything. I'm probably 90% fantasy if I'm not running Old West because I'm counting the months until Chubby puts out hopefully something, Red Dead. Anyway, sorry, I'm going to keep on. I'm going to
I
keep on.
stopped fucking with him about that a long
But
time ago.
my litmus about 35, I don't know, 40 years ago. You guys, have y'all ever heard of Tucker's Kobolds?
No.
Tucker's Kobolds, I'm sure some of our chat, maybe somewhere out there, somebody's pretty familiar with it, but it was a Dragon magazine article, probably around the late 80s. I want to say it was around 87 or 88. And it talked about an experienced group, and they were going into a dungeon. And one of the very first creatures, I guess, that they encountered were kobolds. Well, I mean, we're kind of used to those creatures as kind of like being the appetizers for whatever comes. No, no, no. This was a group, a horde, a tribe, to Gary's point, a singular squad that absolutely eviscerated an entire party with lots of lethality and ingenuity. So that always stuck with me, that whole Tucker's Kobolds uh, um, relay. Probably about, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago, there was some discussion of, revisiting it about tactics. No, not Tucker. No, but that's, I mean, he's kind of scaly. Anyway, so Tucker's Kobolds, though, kind of serves as this litmus for what creatures can truly be when fully realized. So I kind of always stuck with that, probably over the last, I don't know, 5 or 8 years of looking at the kobold in a fantasy bestiary of how kobolds are represented, because they're such a baseline creature. Monster Overhaul like answered all of my stuff in just 2 pages, easy to reference, to kind of create that. So
We got a question from Warp Plots. What is premise for should we ignore it?
I mean,
I'll let you guys wrestle with that. I have to actually hit the little game master's room, so I'll be back.
I'm afraid.
Gary, when you pre-roll or you have something set up and that potential reluctance, I think I remember at some point you mentioned, maybe this was your West Marches game, about a reluctance or a threshold that wasn't crossed. Whenever you see that your players, they ignore, like,
Well, I mean, I wanted it was a really deadly game, and I wanted them to in game. I wanted them to understand that, like, if you cross this line, like, things are going to change. So I made this very physical in game, border. There was like the purple, the forest was really friendly. Mostly, well, there was a lot of deaths, but compared to what they were going to go into, right? So, but giving them that warning meant that they didn't go into it. Really, what I should have done is not. What I should have done is just say the woods get a little thicker, and then move to the next encounter table. That's what I should have done. I learned so many things. Man, accidents and mistakes.
discoveries.
If discoveries. There you go. You go. Discoveries.
I listened to some of that stream, and I was sorry I couldn't be there live on it, but my heart was feeling for you, man, because it's like you did nothing wrong. I mean, it's just a failure to discover.
Here's the thing. I don't think I did anything wrong. I think I could have done things better.
Can't we all?
There's some things I could have done better. So it wasn't about doing anything wrong, but point being, monsters. I was thinking about this a second ago. And maybe this is because I moved away from fantasy games so early, but I went into a game with stormtroopers.
Hey, that's a
bad guy. And the bad guy was the worst bad guy in the world. And there were monsters, but they were pretty much all statted out, pretty unique. Mostly it was aliens, right? Superhero games, right? You've got a villain or a team of villains. So that's sort of monster-like, but
The Dreadnoks and the Cobra Laws are the monster bestiary for
yeah.
GI Joe.
So that may
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
what may have happened is the whole thing with monsters for me is because I've just when you brought up this topic, I started thinking about it. I seem to have stormtroopers. I seem to have, lieutenants, and then I have a Darth Vader. And betwixt those, there are monster encounters or dungeons or
It's
layers or something like that.
when you said that, it
That
just
seems to be
reminded
my
me.
system.
When you said that, it reminded me of one of the reasons why I've fallen so out of love with most of action cinema over the last 10 years, because it's the robots, aliens, ninjas. Ron, I call it the Ron factor. I say Ron because that's my Kurosawa side. Sorry, Ran, RAN, and robots, aliens, ninjas. When you just have them as the prevalent threat to where they're just exploding butter, in an action scene. It just I like identity in monsters and creatures in a bestiary where there's a uniqueness. I certainly enjoy that because it gives me a chance as a GM to personify something that's not the eccentric NPC, but an actual entity for my players to have to figure out how do we engage in this. And back to the question, and then I'm sure Matt's got some stuff on it. Should we ignore it? What's the premise? Matt, you brought up a really great example with the I think you said the chimeras.
Yeah.
Maybe going in was not a good call. That could have been a whole mini campaign arc on how to deal with that, a
It
lost
almost did.
opportunity.
It almost did. Well, if I
So
can add to that, so that was completely randomly generated, and because of my on the fly thinking, well, they encountered it because it was off the Osteon Road. That's this road that goes through this lower half of Tetherian. They were attacking merchant caravans, right? So they have the map encased in glass so they can use dry erase markers and mark all over it. And so there is a chimera layer now on the map. And because one of the PCs that died is carrying a couple powerful magic items that are like kind of integral to like the backstory of this whole campaign that Rob created. We actually had an impromptu game during downtime where a couple of them gathered on a Saturday night online to go back to the lair just to steal those magic items back. Now, I thought they would, and they certainly could have done this, hire a bunch of mercenaries and just start like, attacking these chimeras, right? And like with bows and like this big thing. Nope, they decided just to sneak in, grab the thing, and run. Of course, they ended up losing another henchman and a couple horses. They barely survived, but they got the magic item back. But there is now this chimera mated pair that has a lair off the Osteon Road, and it fucking hates the Iron Price because they killed their child, their cub, and yeah, so they are very wary whenever they're getting close to that hex, because I don't even think to this day they know exactly what to do with that mated pair of chimeras. But that was all randomly generated, and not just randomly generated because I rolled chimeras, but by virtue of the surprise roll, the encounter distant roll, and the initial disposition, like changed how that was going to play out. Or yeah.
warped plots. I do want to just one last answer on that question. What is premise for should we ignore it? I would probably offer two elements, because you want to challenge your players to consider there are benefits to ignoring it whenever there's a time pressure or there's a resource issue. So not everything is something to be defeated, and that's where the wonderful aspect or conversation of unleveled, adversaries, just like the world is what it is. It's the Morrowind factor. It's why
Yeah.
Morrowind is better than Skyrim. I'll always offer, because you had unleveled loot and unleveled creatures, because the world is more dangerous. I
Yeah.
have not played Easy D6. Thomas. Gary's the easy D6 guy right there. Is there a bestiary
yeah.
for easy D6? For what is
There
there?
is, and it's pretty cool. You know, the original easy. I'm not gonna hold the book. Every time you guys hold the
But
book
you
up,
bought
it
it. You bought the
fucks the screen.
bestiary.
No. It's not a
Oh,
bestiary. There's the monsters
okay.
in the back. Sorry, there's a
Okay.
bestiary in the back of the book. I think that's one of those games where you can make your own monsters pretty easy.
If there
Everything
was a
about that game
bestiary,
is
would you
pretty
be
easy.
interested in buying it?
I like the art for the monsters they have. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah,
Yes,
I don't know if
makes
I'd buy a separate bestiary. I haven't bought a bestiary aside from the Axe 2 monster book in forever. You know, it's I I think I was just explaining it. You know, we start with the monster. I
Mm.
think the monster defines the whole thing. So if that means I create the monster or I alter a monster or whatever, you know, that's kind of where it starts. So
Subverting the familiar is an important part when we're manufacturing um, these situations, or
yeah,
so that because when things become predictable is obviously whenever you lose engagement.
Yeah.
Or they're going to go to a typical order of ops mechanically in their system of what they do as characters or the group. This is our door kicker. This is then our buffer, and this it gets
yeah.
very like 4E. Just
Yeah.
World of Warcraft. What is it? The go on the monster raid and Leroy Jenkins or whatever. So
Yeah. Well, that's why I kind of criticize this like modern design philosophy where it's like super concise layout for like all these monsters, like whether it's OSE, Shadow Dark, or whatever. Like there was something really useful in this having like not even just like the habit well whatever it was in like the second edition, where they had like the it's like own personal culture and the way the orcs or the hobgoblins or whatever like associated with each other. Sometimes the ecology section would give you something
yeah,
like because it would say, oh, the unicorn's horn when ground can make potions or whatever. That's an adventure hook.
yeah.
There's an evil wizard that wants you to hunt or maybe a good, who knows, however you do it, right? But they want you to go hunt down a unicorn for the horn, right? Or maybe you're asked to defend the unicorn because there's some asshole who wants to hunt it down for the horn, right? So like all this, like there's all this stuff there, and it all goes towards the implied setting, whereas not to knock Shadow Dark, but this is it's
I'm
the new
out. I have
hotness.
nothing to drink. I gotta go. The drinking. Y'all continue. I'm gonna go get my drink.
All right,
Continue.
yeah, go.
All right, okay.
The one guy who probably defend what I'm about to say is leaving, but that's okay. I think one of the things that I think is a double-edged sword. I'll say this for Shadow. It's a double-edged sword. It is pretty generic, so I think it'll appeal to a lot of like modern players. They can pick it up. They understand what they got to do, but I think a lot is lost from like the old school TSR approach to bestiaries, if that makes any sense.
Kind of. I mean, because I just looked at the old school TSR bestiaries, and there's not, BX has like a tiny amount of art. They didn't really have a lot of art in the beginning. I don't know, man. I think that if we're just talking about the bestiary itself, it has to have art. As far as monsters go, I kind of, and this is kind of rubbed off from Lamentations, I think, from reading that book that you sent me. I like the idea of there being one monster. I
Yeah.
mean, is it really a monster if there's thousands of them, or I mean, yes, it can be the horde itself, but is it really a monster if it's common?
Right. Right.
Like
No,
if any little kid sees it and is like, "That's a orc," well, who fucking? That's not a monster. Then it's an orc, right? When you give it a name, it
Great
kind of
point. That's a
takes away
great
that
point, Jeff.
sort of terrifying, And I'm not even a horror guy, but your monster should make people uncomfortable. You should never tell your players it's a gelatinous cube, right? You
right.
should describe
Yeah.
the gelatinous cube. And I've been thinking a lot since while you guys talk. the coolest monsters, some of the cool, like if you take the vampire in AD&D, right? You take that monster, you can't just put that monster in a dungeon, right? Like there's not like at no point do you think a really cool vampire is just on the bottom of level of this dungeon with a bunch of random, orcs on the first level and this on this level, and this on that.
Right.
And I think
Unless you're,
that's one of
unless you're the
the, I think,
Hickmans, you can put that vampire
sure,
spot.
yeah, you can figure that stuff out. I think
Ravenloft. It's just
yeah.
sorry.
So for me, monsters, the monster manual needs to be inspiring. And that monster if you're gonna use that monster, it needs to be a monster. You know. Anyway,
Hey,
so
oh,
that's my attitude on
here's a
monsters.
controversial question: should players be allowed access to bestiaries
No. Fuck no.
in
No, they
the year
shouldn't. But you
2025?
can't stop them. But you can't stop
Okay,
them.
I was waiting for both answers to come out.
But
No, but you
luckily,
can't
most
stop them.
players
So
won't read it.
Nah,
Most
you don't know my
players
uh,
players.
see that's
I have players who'll be like, but wait a minute, I thought blah blah blah, and I look at them, I go, you're in my world, motherfucker. They do things differently here,
and that
you know.
and yeah, no, that's a great reason to um to customize your monsters. I
Yeah.
mean, look, sometimes you can just take a monster and change a couple things about its physical appearance, not touch any of the stats, give it a new
Yep.
name,
Yeah.
and that's
Well,
perfectly acceptable. And that gives your players. Now, I'm not talking about the unique high level monsters that everybody recognize, but like I can't tell you how many times I've taken the goblin and altered the goblin to be a different race, or the orc, or just one of those
sure,
standard
sure.
kind of things.
Reskin.
Yeah.
I mentioned my favorite book is of the last few years. I do think one of the best designed books, and y'all can get mad at me when I start saying 5e, but I will. Having run so much 5e, I do believe because it does what it needs to do of that element of surprise and the unknown without me reskinning it, was MCDM's Flea Mortals. When I started using that with my experienced 5e group, it changed the game, like literally, because they're the nature of action oriented monsters and how they kind of frame all the different elements of what is not really, from what I understand. I never played 4E; it's the only edition I ever skipped, but I know it uses a lot of the concepts from 4E. But I would say Flea Mortals, and the art is beautiful, but Flea Mortals is actually an expertly design book for what it does within the system in making things that are very common feel new, different, or dangerous again. Really good book. Great book. So
Yeah.
y'all
I
didn't get mad at me for
haven't seen it.
saying 5e, or y'all. Thank y'all.
Whatever, man.
I've been waiting. I was waiting to get them best.
no,
It's a
no.
it's a
I think you can go a long way. Just kind of go, because I've been saying this for a long time. But Gary, you brought it up. Like describing the monster, the adversary, rather than naming it, I think goes a long way. Because I think you can make goblins, which we all know, the veteran player knows. Oh, depending on particular edition of D&D, they have around a hit die, right? Maybe it's a little lower, right? But than one hit die. But we all know what they are. But if you describe these creatures popping out of the woods or whatever to attack your party without saying they're goblins, there's going to be an immediate like stop, and everyone's going to look at each other like, what is this? We think we can take them, like, is there more of them? I think that goes a long way too. But in terms of going back to the concept of like what kind of bestiary are we looking for, I want more than just a stat block. I think at the end of the
That's
day,
fair.
like
Yeah,
that's
totally
really
fair.
and I'll do again, not trying to knock Shadow Dark, and I think there's a lot of assumption built into that book. Like I don't know if I could hand that to a new game master and
How
be
would you
like,
flesh it out, Matt? What does that look like?
oh art.
no, no, I would want more than just art. I'd want what are goblins in the Shadow Dark world? Like what are they? Like give me a little bit more than this like 2 sentence descriptor. Like what are they?
You know
How are
what,
they
Matt?
different from, how is this less one hit die or less creature different from this other one hit die or less creature called kobold? Like, other than just these stupid, the little like combat power abilities, how are they different? I think that goes a long way. And because goblins and kobolds, they're both chaotic evil from the TSR OSR sense, but goblins are sneaky and they attack in groups. Kobolds like traps. That's the only real difference, but it's a significant one when you start designing their home, right? So
I would have
I want
agreed
more.
with you. I think I would have agreed with you 30 minutes ago. Like I want more too, right? Like I like as far as want goes, I agree with that. I want more. But when you bring up the new gamer, it just kind of dawned on me a while back. Kids don't give a shit about looking things up. It's fine. They really don't, man. Like I just, yeah, I mean, they're just like, they find shit quicker than I do. Hey, what about this? Bam, they've got the information. And
$2 super chat from Death Angel Shadow. Not trying to knock Shadow Dark. Drink. Hick. Yeah.
but I
I
think
am.
maybe that should be
This
taken
this
into
beer
account
is getting me kind of drunk.
when we talk about new gamers. I wonder if sometimes we don't think of ourselves when we were younger and how we understood the game, how we came about understanding it.
That's
And we
fair.
live in this whole new fucking world, man. These kids, they have technology. They have every ounce of human knowledge a Google search away. You know what I mean? It's so I think maybe we do need to take that into account. I also think I think for Shadow Dark, it fits because I think it is for the younger gamer. I think the format and the size of the physical book really matters for Shadow Dark. I know that seems strange, but I think the form factor matters. And were you to fill up another 10 pages, 15 pages, there's something about the way, like, it's just good to hold. I don't know how to explain it, dude.
No,
There's
I
an
get. No, I
aesthetic
get.
to it.
Because like if, well, there was a reason why you had the player's handbook, DM's guide, and then the monster manual. And
Yeah.
Shadow Dark is all condensed. And no, I get. I completely understand what you're saying. I think of my son. I'm not trying to force my hobbies onto him. So like we actually haven't played
Yes,
Shadow
you
Dark in a.
fucking are, dude.
No, I yeah,
Don't
I
lie.
ask him and he says I'm not interested, and I'm like, okay, we don't have to play. But I think about him picking up Shadow Dark to run a goblin encounter. I'm I'm like, what's that going to look like?
Can
You know what I mean?
can I s- can may I ask if I can screen share for a moment?
Sure can.
Okay. Here we go.
I do have a pinned comment that I want to address eventually. Give me a
Uh,
second.
sure.
We'll
You
address it in a second.
do y'all see the goblin screen here?
Yep.
So it's you're mentioning goblins, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
is the staple beast, at least of fantasy and such. So this is right out of the core rule book, and goblins are the smallest and most numerous of the goblinoids, often serving hobgoblins, bugbears, or even hill giants as replaceable lackeys. All right, let's just unpack this for a moment. Does this, as a GM, give you something that you can create a situation with?
Most numerous of maybe.
Maybe, right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it's
could
not
be an era.
terrible.
It's not terrible. I mean, now we have it linking into some other creatures, lackeys.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we can create some tension. Hill giants, we can telegraph danger, powerful danger that might be much more than what a level one, because that's what they are. They're level one, by the way.
Yeah.
But it can feed into a future menace. Okay, let's continue. They live in filthy subterranean warrens built of scavenged materials.
All right.
The
Okay.
goblin boss rules by cruelty and strength.
You know what, Brian? I picked the wrong monster. Go go to another one.
No,
Go
no,
to another one.
just time out. But I'm just saying is that I to Gary's point, which is a really important point, because I see a lot of new GMs at my FLGS and we did almost 9 months of session zeros where we talked with new GMs at our gaming store about how to run and facilitate games and how to retain players, especially when you're dealing with strangers and such. And there has to be a shared language to a certain degree when you're talking a system or you're talking a genre, you're talking a theme. Well, to make it easy for a lot of these players, to Gary's point, they got to be able to pick it up and play. Now, that art that you saw, it particularly hyper detailed? Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld? No, it wasn't. It was sufficient because we kind of know what goblins are. We do. There's enough there, I think, in defense of the modern GM that they can run a satisfying goblin encounter in a way that makes them think about what's next beyond.
That's fair. That's fair.
And
Just real.
that was just my point. So.
No, and that's fair, and you're not wrong. Super chat $5. See from Robert Santon. Thank you so much, sir. See you hopefully for your next one. Cheers, dude. You've been coming here. You're a staple. We really appreciate it. Hope to see you next week. We're going to be talking about the future of the show, things we want to do, and Barrels and Borderlands.
Get the fuck out
I know. Dude, I honestly thought we would have been aborted by now. But anyway, we got a Barrels and Borderlands giveaway next week as well. So hopefully we will see you then as well. That's fair, Brian. Again, I'm not trying to knock Shadow Dark, and I would actually say that Goblin entry is actually really good. I just want to. There's some other creatures though, like I just want more in that. You know what I mean? I sort of feel like your Goblin example is an exception to the rule.
Well, it's foundational, right? I mean, you are at a stage where, again, we're talking about confidence and competence, that you can probably, in whatever you were to design for Shadow Dark, come up with something that might fill in or be a great representation of what it is that you're seeking. And then that therefore becomes a model for he did just take off his cap. That was but anyway, what I'm saying is that if we have a baseline to work from, we have a shared language, shared knowledge at least of what it looks like, and that's what the Shadow Dark chassis does so well. You can probably represent that next level of what does that look like. There are Roll for Combat's got their Bestiary. I forget the name of it, so I'm sure it's going to be a lot of great art. I'm sure it's going to be well designed. I think Taylor Seeley Wright is the one. No, it's not Potluck. Anyway, but the idea is that we can work off of this skeleton, literally this monster skeleton, and flesh it out. So
yeah, Rook. I just wanted to point this out because Al had tagged me. Fire on the Velvet Horizon may be a nice fit for you. System neutral, no stats, themes, and explanations of what the creature is and how it acts. Enough info to make its stats yourself. That's interesting. Never heard of it. I will look into it. Thank you very much. That sounds interesting. I guess again, I mean, like from basic fantasy perspective, Goblin is so ubiquitous. Like maybe you don't need much. But again, I go back to, I'm thinking in terms of if I'm brand spanking new to this hobby, is there enough for me to do what I need to do to like spark that, the Goblin entry in Shadow Dark? Sure, I'll concede. But some of the other entries, I'm just not so sure. I like I said, I would like more. I would like more overall. But Gary thinks system neutral is lame. Pick a side.
Hey, I have a question for you guys. So, Brian, you had said something.
And Cloaker thinks system neutral is good. Fantastic. Fight. Round one.
No. You had said something earlier about fighting the same old monsters and everything. And I think there's something to be said about, like, if you run into 2 or 3 goblins at first level, and let's say it's a small party, like that can be a really scary encounter. Like you might not make it out of there. Goblins, and I think there's something, and I think there's something to be said for, when they hit level 4 or 5, throwing another little goblin band at them and watching them just cut through. You know what I mean? And just like, holy shit, look what we can do now. And I think there are systems that are kind of designed like the fighter in Acts 2 with the cleave ability, right? Like, how fun must that be at first level? You know, you get one cleave and you might get 2 hits, or, you know, maybe if it's right. And then you come back at like 6th level and you're just, you know, wading through fucking bad guys.
Well,
Like the,
provided you're a GM who's willing to put that in as an encounter in a situation at that stage of the character's progression, because a lot of
well,
GMs would
I
never
think
waste time with that.
it's this, right? Well, but hang on though. See, therein lies the difference. Stormtroopers, right? So like, if like, they're always going to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Right. If you're playing a game where goblins are you've got goblins and hobgoblins and, you know, armies of this and that, they're always going to be there. So you're going to get that chance to really let, you know, the PCs kind of flex, put them on a fucking battlefield,
Yeah.
you know, let them kind of show stuff off. I like that kind of thing.
Reminds me of the Ravenloft module Feast of Goblins, which really we talked about maybe about 4 or 5 months ago. I brought it up as an example of a redefinition. And it's goblin spelled Goblyn, but they were face eaters because it's Ravenloft 2e, right? And so, and there's a massive fight with those creatures that is horrifying to think about when there's so many of them and they just eat your face. Yeah, they're a little, you know, like, I mean, think about the rot grub. Okay,
Oh, the rock grub is
the
like
rot grub is like
original body horror in
it totally
yes,
is,
yeah.
right?
I
And
miss the rock grub.
well, and I'm going to just throw this back just as a prism for you. Maybe is what is the stat block needed for that, right? That you need in any system. You maybe need 3 or 4 sentences. It's probably one of the smallest. Well, it's probably indicative of its size,
Well, the
right?
rock grub isn't really a monster. It's really more like a trap or natural
Can be. It
obstacle.
can be.
Yeah.
It can be. I mean, it can
Yeah.
definitely be something, but it can once it's in you, it's definitely a monster. Yeah, it's
Well,
definitely
I'll tell you, like in the thing that I'm writing for Shadow Dark, Return of the White Wizard, I have something called the Aberrant Slug, and I had the rock grub in mind. It has stats only because it can grow up to about a foot and a half long. But at the end of the day, it really is more of an obstacle. Like when it attacks, players have to do things to keep it from burrowing into its target, the character. So I really struggle. Do I want to give this monster stats or do I want to treat this as an obstacle? And because of some of the things I ultimately decided to do with it, I decided to give it monster stats.
yeah.
But
Is it adversary or is it hazard?
yeah, exactly. So, but I missed the rock grub. Oh, traditional body horror. Oh God, it was there at the beginning, guys.
Hey, the rust monster is body horror for the fighter.
Oh geez, yeah. Oh, what the heck we were talking about, and the rust monster came up. Like, oh, it was level drain, and how level drain. This is going back a little ways, where people were upset with me online for defending level drain. But someone brought up the rust monster is the same damn thing, but it's like it goes after your equipment, not your levels. And it's just like, you know, the rust monster is not something you want to mess with. So, but anyway,
The rust monster, in my opinion, is the worst monster if you're playing ICRPG, because you don't level in that game. All your bonuses after character creation come from loot. So the fucking rust monster can eat a dick.
I love I'm gonna start putting rust monsters
You
in
can
all my
eat a rusty one.
Yeah, it's not good. Not good. So I'm wondering, what do you guys, are there any monster mechanics either for individual monsters or from a different system or anything that make you think of monsters differently? Like, you know, I keep talking about stormtroopers, and that leads me to thinking about, like, well, there are monsters in Star Wars, there are monsters in science fiction, they're just used very differently. You know, it's usually the monster is a part of that natural environment. It's an alien environment, so it's not really scary as much as it's weird, you know, or just different. Is there anything about the mechanics or the setting?
We
touche, Mike, touche.
we mentioned earlier that like the whole idea of monsters feeling routine, like there's a threshold. At what point does the monster wind up with having identity? And so,
Yeah.
like taking things from sources to kind of come up with different ways to personify creatures in a way that hasn't happened before. I love the idea, and Shadow Dark does use a slightly similar way of quickly generating something a la DCC Lamentations of something that's unfathomable and different and such. Um, you think about having actually, I got a chance to be a player last year, and I played in a Call of Cthulhu game, and I'd never played Cthulhu. It was the one thing that I always avoid, but that is the monster that it's over. It's over
Yeah.
in that
You're
game.
fucked.
Yep.
So then I think about, well, how can I translate that to sometimes my Halloween one shots?
Yeah.
Because in a Halloween game, if I get my female players, because that's their thing. It's I run it for Courtney and Jessica and Linda and my wife, and it's like, okay, how do I make it to where like you hold off as long as it's the Jaws thing, right? Like how long do you hold off before you get to this thing? Because it represents kind of like so, like, how do you introduce threats that are deadly and dangerous? And I guess for me, I really want to make the monster frightening again, because we do live in an era and age now where we don't have um, we have more imagination so readily accessible to us. And here's the other part too: we've made monsters so cuddly in media,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and it's kind of disgusting that we think of them, these things that can be. There's a difference between beasts and then absolute monsters. And for me, Gary, I guess I like to try to find ways to make them new and horrifying, and I'm willing to use other systems. It's why I like system neutral, because it allows me to think of things in a way that is different than I would have otherwise.
Round 2, fight. No. Um I actually to kind of go to more directly to your question, Gary, about like something about monsters that made me think differently. Goes back to my Lamentations of Elemental Evil campaign. The second, well, it wasn't a complete TPK, but I think all but one person had to make new characters. There was the first level of the Temple of Elemental Evil, and they found the ghoul lair. And I knew this was going to be bad because it's a tight area. Sound travels. It was going to trigger and aggro all these ghouls, and they were going to be quickly overrun. Well, as we all know, ghouls in classic Dungeons and Dragons, and maybe even the modern game, it's been a while since I looked at it, but they can paralyze you. So, how I've always done it when I was younger, like, oh, you're paralyzed, and then the ghoul would move on to the next person, right? And then you know what I mean. What I did in this game, when the ghoul paralyzed, that ghoul was out of the fight. Why?
Because he's eating.
Because eating the paralyzed creature character, and that's what I started telegraphing and describing to the players. And it's just like, well, some of them still had hit points left, so I'm like, automatic hit, take X damage. Is it's just ripping out your insides and like sucking down the marrow, crunching on bone and stuff. All the while, I was using that as a way to telegraph to the players, you better fucking run. You're about to get overrun.
Yeah.
And they just kept going, and they kept going to the point where, and I because these were like quote unquote experienced OSR guys, I used the gif of the dude going like this and turning away. I'm like, what the hell were you thinking? Like, I can't believe like you got to make new characters. Like, so paralyze and using undead specifically like that, and use their special abilities that are typically unique compared to your living adversaries to try to telegraph information to the players, to answer your question, Gary. So but I broke the seal. I'll be right back. Sorry. It's beer. It's what happens when I drink beer. If I was drinking
Right.
bourbon, it'd be different. But of course, if I was drinking bourbon, I'd be more ornery. So
Yes, very, very much so.
Gary, do you whenever you go from system to system and you're kind of seeing what like this provoking your curiosity, is or like the bestiary, or is that one of the first things that you kind of gravitate to? Is what are the things that create
No,
um and
I
within the
really
combat?
haven't put this much thought into monsters in like forever.
They're incidental? Are they more just kind of like their flavor?
They're obstacles. I mean, I like so back when I was running a lot of sci-fi stuff, there was always a primary predator monster, and then there's the big granddaddy monster of the wastes, right? I mean, that was really the monster. Everything else after that was people, you know. Um, so no, I haven't really put this much, even in like the modern like 1970s Texas occult game I'm running now. Like
Mhm.
there's a monster, there is a monster. And a lot of times, like I'm glad Matt's not here, but those monsters are just kind of like they're I'm trying to kind of drop hints, and you know what I mean? It's like the monsters have a purpose. It's more than just there's a monster. There's a reason it's
You're
that
using it to
monster.
embellish the world and the lore a bit to give
Kind
them more of an
of
anchor to anchor.
a little bit, yeah. Or trying to yeah. There's a few things going on. You can't try
Yeah,
too hard, but it's
yeah.
not just a random, monster of the week, right?
There's a common refrain within the 5e community that it's hard to kill characters, and
No, it's
I would
not.
argue it's absolutely not. And I tell my players, and I actually it's in my doc. I'll read it here. It says, in combat, some enemies, soulless undead, hungry beasts, sadistic fiends, vengeful beings, might attack a dying or unconscious target. Others might look to show mercy, parlay, or flee, depending on such factors as their alignment, intelligence, or morale. So that's in my campaign, constitution as it is. So my players are aware that if you drop to zero, that's terrifying in my 5e game, because to that point, that ghoul is going to keep eating. That's what
Yeah.
it's there to do.
Yeah.
Or in the case, I actually had my paid group. They ran. I told y'all they fled from my Black Dragon encounter. I was like, man, to get a group of guys that have been playing for 3 decades with a
Yeah.
lot of tactical experience and in a paid game, no less. Because so there's expectations, right? It's a
Right.
different theme in delivering an experience. And afterwards, when he pulled me aside afterwards, he said, I've been playing with these guys a long time. They said we fled from that fight because we knew we were vastly outclassed. The Black Dragon was eating their lunch. They're level 4 and it's a young Black Dragon Wormly, but being transparent with your players that, like, yeah, monsters aren't cuddly. Just because you drop to 0 hit points, it doesn't. The paralysis thing, like, that's a great thing to do. But to a new gamer who doesn't know better, man, it's a massive litmus test on their either tolerance or understanding of why they're going to be playing the game.
Okay, let's
I just wanted
address
to.
this.
I wanted to address this because I actually, I I don't want to say I disagree with you, but I do kind of disagree with
I
you
do.
guys. Okay, it's not hard to kill characters. It is hard to make it a challenge without going over the precipice of a TPK. Um, here's my issue with the pushback of the it's hard to kill 5e players. If you're playing with a brand spanking new, or I shouldn't say brand spanking new, but like an inexperienced gamer, yeah, then maybe I guess 5e can be lethal. But my experience with 5e is with my guys I've been gaming with for 3 decades. They are war gamers. They are like min maxers. Trying to kill them was so effing hard. It was to the point where I actually had to break the rules of the game. What do I mean by that? Break the rules of the game to create something that was challenging. But what I mean by that is implicit in the encounter design rules was balanced encounters. I had to make unbalanced encounters.
The
To
game
do it
demanded balance. That was a part of
in
the game.
5e, yeah. When you look in
Oh,
the whole CR thing, they all like, oh yeah, if your players are this level, this is what you do. It's implicit in the rules that it's
I
got to be
didn't
this
realize that
balance.
was a 5e question. I thought that was a general response. I didn't realize that was 5e.
Yeah, because
So when I
it's
said I
not hard.
disagree, my bad. I don't. I
Okay,
could. It's 5e. What do I care?
oh, fair enough, fair enough.
I don't have
I'm
an
just,
opinion.
but my point is, like, if you want to play 5e like as written, like there's this implicit, it all encounters are to be balanced. And I would make, so if you had a group of 5th level characters, I'd be throwing CR 10 encounters or something at them to try to like challenge them. But and this is the thing, like I know I sometimes complain about my in-person gaming group, that they are like some of the best fucking war gamers I've ever had the displeasure of having to go up against, because they would rise to the challenge, figure it out, and still win. And now I'm stuck in this position where they just defeated a 10th level encounter. They may be limping away, but they defeated it, and now they have all this experience, and now they're level 7 or level 6 or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it was like this, it became like this weird feedback loop, and it was so fucking hard. Maybe my group is the exception to the rule, but I just don't think you should be and this is one of the things I like about OSR. Nothing is balanced. Nothing is guaranteed to be balanced. Like the Chimera encounter. Like, this is what happened. Here it is. You guys figure it out. Maybe you should run. Maybe you shouldn't just walk into a freaking cavern you haven't scouted out yet. You know what I mean? So
as a group and GM get more familiar with one another, um, those sort of situations become they're more enriched because there's now that understanding and that comfort, and you can kind of see it play out to where they realize it's not always an us versus them situation. So familiarity is important because that trust that your players don't think that you're scouring to page 357 to find that one thing that's going to take them down, because ultimately it's how we also play whatever it is at the table that makes it memorable.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and Mike, one, Death Angels, thank you. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And Mike, this is sort of my point. Like, you have to sort of mod 5e. And years ago, I started working on my own 5e mod to make it more OSR, and I stopped because I had this realization: why don't I just play a OSR game? Like, who gives a shit? And because at the end of the day, I really don't like all the bells and whistles. I prefer something a little more streamlined. So, but anyway, we kind of digressed off of bestiaries and monsters and stuff like that. So, I don't know. We got like 8 minutes left. I don't know. What are your final thoughts on monsters, bestiaries? Gary, if you were to, and I'll pose this question to you too, Brian. If you were to have given the keys to the kingdom, and what your favorite game company, whatever it is, doesn't matter, said, make us a bestiary, what would it look like, Gary?
Each entry would have art. I don't know. Honestly, I don't think I run that kind of game. I don't think I use, I use monsters. I don't, there's a lot.
It sounds
Yeah,
like you would need something as simple as this. The random.
possibly, or I would just make my own up. I don't know. I think I would rather see in some of these newer games, I would rather see something like that where you're presented with a way to create monsters of your own, right? Now I'm not talking about D&D. I'm talking about games that I like that are kind of a D&D. You have your monsters. D&D is now a traditional game. It's like fucking Monopoly. These are your goddamn monsters. Use them. And that's at least how I feel at this moment in time. All right. It'll change. I'll change my mind. I will change my mind. But for other games, especially in other genres, I would rather see more things about, making your own monsters, designing your monsters to kind of fit the purpose, or of what you're trying to accomplish there. Yeah, I'd like to see more of that. Stars Without Number, like I say, it's got that small bestiary, and then it's kind of tags for things. I think that's a great way to do it. Um, there's any number of things. Just, I would encourage people, right, even in their Dungeons and Dragons game, take a monster and just alter it, make it your own. Don't even come up with a fucking name for it. Find out what your players are going to start calling it.
Oh, that's a good
Because
idea.
well, I mean, in that last campaign, the little
Oh, those
cat
little
ape,
freaking
yeah,
those.
Reed
Yes.
had, there were like two names going around for him. People were calling him different. I thought it was great,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know.
I
So
hated those
yeah,
fucking things.
and I will say, just a feather in Matt's hat. I think if you want to read about the best way to use monsters, I think Lamentations of the Flame Princess probably has the best written, like, what is a monster, how to use it, don't name the motherfucker, stuff like
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best. The thing about bestiaries is, and this is why maybe I don't really care for them a whole lot, is that it kind of implies for a game like all those monsters are there, right? Like D
Yeah.
and D, D&D, if you're using the tables, that's fine. Go have your fun, roll up your random shit. That is the game, right? But in these other games, I don't. It can't be a monster if it's common, right? Like,
Right.
if
Yeah.
everybody knows what a fucking minotaur is in your world, then it's not special. It's just this thing that's out there that's horrible. You might not want to run into it. Anyway, yeah, that's where I'm at with that. I think we might. I think every game but D&D should think of monsters differently.
Make
D&D should
monsters
stay.
foreign again.
Yeah, make
Yeah.
monsters. Don't even, like I
Oh,
say.
we're gonna get
Look, that's
clipped, and then we're gonna get canceled for that comment. But okay, continue.
what's that?
Make monsters foreign again. Someone's gonna
Oh, I
read
did
into
not
that.
mean it that way. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
I'm
I
teasing
didn't.
you. I'm teasing you. I'm teasing
I didn't
you.
even think about it until you said it that way. Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
I
I'm no,
apologize.
you don't need to.
That
I'm
is
fucking
not
with
what I
you.
was trying to say.
I am fucking
But
with you. Don't worry about it.
but I mean, to your point, Gary, I think you really, it's a very eloquent way of just a succinctly eloquent way of putting it, that if the average village kid can point at it and say what it is, it's not terrifying. It's just something that's out there. It's no different than the tigers out in the jungle that attack. Well, those are tigers and crocodiles.
And you
They'll
should be
attack you.
scared of it,
You
but
should
is
be
it a
scared
fucking
of them.
monster?
Yeah, don't go to Brazos Bend State Park and take a picture next to the alligator. It's still a freaking alligator. It's a whole,
Yeah.
stupid human tricks and
Yeah,
stuff.
so
So
that's really, I guess that's really my, and the bestiaries for the fantasy world, and this is really this is an issue with modern fantasy games. Like, to use all the stuff they put out, you kind of assume that all these characters live in this very sort of urban setting where everybody's come together and there's no more elves and dwarves are just cool. And fuck, man, even the orcs are good. And let's go walking out here. And you know what?
Oh yeah.
Maybe we don't have to kill the fucking goblins. We can just make friends with them. You can't make friends with those motherfuckers, all right?
Yeah.
You can just
Well,
kill them.
that's why alignment is important, and that could be like an entirely
Oh, dude,
its
we do
own
a whole
separate
fucking show
yeah.
on alignment, and that's
I
the thing. Fuck
yeah.
yes.
oh boy, here we go.
All right,
No, I
Brian.
agree. Me and Matt agree. We're just gonna sit here telling each other, "Yep, you're right. You're right." That's what's gonna happen in that show.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was listening to Gary
Brian.
so much. Can you rephrase your question? I
Yeah,
just
sure, sure. So the keys of the kingdom have been handed to you. Whatever your favorite company is, whatever it is, what does your bestiary look like? You're going to design it. The keys of the kingdom. What does it look like?
It would probably be something almost like Wikipedia-esque, where it would be maybe within a database that can be added and embellished upon and maybe this speaks to a little bit of what Kelsey did with this framework that so many others are creating upon. Well, maybe it'd be almost like you have this thing and it's there, and then entries can get added to it, and then it just kind of becomes almost like this, as opposed to one company or one designer or one creator being the sole authority on it. I would love if there was like a Wikipedia for monsters, and there could be all these subheaders, and then like a community of GMs or even players could go in and start editing and adding branches. Like what would the threading and the circuitry look like off of like the Cloaker, my favorite monster, like, and obviously, it with the whole Underdark, and they're like these aberrations and stuff. There's been this whole mythology that's been built off these creatures, but that took like 20, 30 years to get to that point. We have technology, we have a lot of new minds coming to the hobby, and they might look at it a different way. So a monster manual would be almost like a virtual living document, Wikipedia-esque. I think something like that would be really fascinating and engaging, because people would bring their interpretations and translations in a way that we never would have speculated.
Um, that is the most Brian answer I think you could possibly give to that question. Yeah, that's interesting, man. That is really interesting. I didn't even think of something like that, because goes back to like what I'm saying about the assumption that like Shadow Dark I feel has, right? Like, because like the game has been around for 50 years. People kind of know what a goblin is, I guess.
Yeah.
But when I was, coming up in the hobby, I didn't know what a goblin was. Like, I learned through playing the game. So yeah, that's interesting, man. I like that idea, actually. I really do. Got a super chat from Aled, $10. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas, chat and host. Lord Manius, Questing Beast has a review of Fire on the Velvet Horizon. DM Cloaker, Ekphrastic Beast has really cool art. No idea what that is. I'm sorry. I'm doing the best I can here.
I'll write it
Mr.
down.
Lewis, check out the album Birds on Fire. It's
I'm
70s
on it.
gold.
I'm
Alan,
looking it up
thank you
right
so
now.
much. I just want to point out,
Can I just say something?
Al Ed's been here since I think the beginning. So thank you, sir, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We really appreciate you, man. So go ahead, Gary.
Check out Birds of Fire. Listen, I'm going to tell you guys something. I give music recommendations all the time. And I know that nobody goes and listens to them. But if you give me a music recommendation, I am going to go look it up. And I'm looking up Birds of Fire right now, and I'm not finding them. But I'm going to look them up, dude. Everybody, go listen to Snarky Puppy for a little while. Any album. I don't care what. Family Dinner, Volume 1. All right.
Snarky Puppy,
Family Dinner, Volume 1.
Volume 1. Interesting. Okay.
It might not say Volume 1, but there's definitely a Volume 2. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. That's all right. All right. Well, I don't know. Any last thoughts, guys? Because we are at time.
Gary, are you going to buy a Bestiary in the next 3 or 4 years?
I might.
Get it.
I mean, I might. It depends. I have to tell you, it probably, probably there will probably be something come out, but it's going to be, who knows what that's going to be, right? I will say, we were talking about the Shadow Dark Bestiary earlier. I'm curious how creatures are going to kind of be distributed through the Western Reaches Kickstarter. Like, how is that going to be presented within the books? Because like I'm getting the little books. You know what I mean? I'm kind of curious how that's all going to work out. I'm wondering if there's going to be like regions where there's, these monsters or those monsters. I like the idea of.
I was just going to
Go
say,
ahead.
she's fleshing out the implied setting.
Yeah,
that's the thing I'm actually the most curious
Yeah,
about.
me too.
You know what I mean? Like, I get it. Western marches, like I played those games, like I understand the theory, blah blah blah. I want to see what the world is, the game master's character, right? And I've always had like this sort of psychological sort of take on character generation where and then one of the reasons why I don't believe go find better players is a good gaming advice because
Sometimes it is.
uh, players are you're coming to the table and sometimes they're showing the best of themselves, right? Because there's this like this psychological thing that's happening when they make a character. I want to see what Kelsey thinks. You know what I mean? I want to see her world.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
really what I'm interested in.
and it works almost. I don't want to say it's the antithesis of what she does because she's so well renowned for being succinct. Her elegant brevity, as I like to refer to it,
Yeah.
and it what she's creating is it's the opposite of that. She's fleshing out. This is a true opus for her that
Yeah.
we're going to
Yeah.
have a chance to really gain. Hopefully, I think a lot of confidence on whether or not this game is literally on an actual torch timer as far as relevancy for the next 3 or
And
4.
there
I
it
did it. I
is.
snuck it.
There it
I
is.
did it for you.
This was the controversial thing. Yes, because even you were like, "Oh, I don't know." Well,
I gotta tell you, I've been having
and
more
on that point
positive
though,
thoughts about
Oh yeah.
Shadow Dark recently.
I think the Western you're right. The Western
Speaking.
reaches is going to be like big, but you know who else I think is going to help give it some sustainability? Deathbringer,
Yeah.
Professor Dungeon Master, because we're going to bring it to level 10 to level 20.
I I
So
th- I
we'll
think that is the case, and I'm going to say this, and I'm sure I'm going to get some pushback. I think Shucked Oyster is great. And I think along with Bloodmore, you're going to start this little sort of mini universe with inside her own. I think we're going to start to see that in other people's work as time goes on. Um, I have softened towards Shadow Dark recently.
Oh,
Um,
oh,
I
really?
have. I have. There are certain things that still bother me.
Come on in.
No. I will never. Here's my main and what I've decided. It's like church. Like it's not God. It's church people that turn me off. You know what I
I
mean?
totally identify with that. I know. I
And
know
I
what you
do
mean.
have. I'm still kind of like. Um,
I just want to
it's still.
respond to this real quick. Warp Plots, a very famous hockey player. I can't remember his name, but he said, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't make." Of course, I'm
Word.
going to talk to Professor Dungeon Master and see if he will come here. He's probably going to say no, but I'm going to try anyway.
No, I have softened towards Shadow Dark though, recently, and I think it's because in reality, I think that's probably the way that we've been playing D&D
No lies
before.
detected.
Yeah, before everybody got on the internet and started talking about rules as written and yada 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 and all this kind of stuff. I think it really is sort of maybe a more natural way to play. I do think that as an experienced player, um, bacon and chubby. I do. It's funny. We've got chubby bacon in the house.
Yeah,
Um,
this is another Gary Lewis quote that's going on a shirt. Anyway, go ahead.
I have softened. That's like the first three words of that sentence. There's more to this sentence. There's more. Don't make me get this channel banned because I will. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, I think Shadow Dark is actually probably a more natural way to play, especially when you're at the table. And I think having the kids
Absolutely.
around and doing that is the thing. Now, I think online, I will tell you this. I do think that online there's a certain amount of detail that you need because there is the disconnection of not being on the room, not having the map on the table. So I think maybe it's best in an online game if you are a little more detailed or lean into like BX where everybody knows the rules because they've been playing it forever. But at the table with the kids, with your buddies, Shadow Dark might, you know. Here's the thing: I'm looking for the game that I don't want to mod. I'm looking for the game that I don't want to add shit to. Right?
Sure.
I'm looking for the game that I read and I'm like, oh, this is it. I'm good.
But see, this is the reason why I like Shadow Dark. It's because it reminds me of BX. I can mod the fuck out of it.
Well, it's look, and it kind of goes back to, again, it's a common natural shared language that we've all kind of already had this implied understanding. I think of it really like this. Sometimes I think of it almost like in a way as TTRPG fantasy football terms. If I'm going to have an RPG on my team and I want a high floor, my high floor is Shadow Dark. That's my floor. That's my foundation. My dream
Really?
ceiling would be Axe 2. That would be probably my dream ceiling. But yeah, it is something that's like my game tomorrow, which I've got my group of 6 tomorrow, and there are 5 because my wife's got to go out of town. But they're excited. We're continuing with our Midnight Sun campaign, and we're gonna finish off the year here. And these are people that played 5e for a long time, and they've repeatedly told me why they enjoy Shadow Dark. It's just because it's just more enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's more enjoyable. Now that means different things to each one of them, because one of them is a Shadow Dark GM and a player, and then 2 of them, this is their first real role playing experience. So to get that answer off of that system, doing something right.
Oh yeah, I agree. And to the BX point, I'm gonna plug one of Chubby's things here. I
Shadow
really like Shadow Rim. I never played Skyrim, and I never will, because my in-person gaming crew, they played the fuck out of it and they talk about it. It's like listening to a bunch of dudes with their own language. The same thing happened with World of Warcraft. It became an inside joke because I would just jump into like a drunken conversation, go, "Yeah, guys, remember Karazhan?" Right? And anyway, but this is really good and
It's
makes me
wonderful.
actually interested in
Yes.
Skyrim. But here's the thing: this is actually pretty self-contained when you think about it, because some of the character generation stuff that's in
Yep.
here
Yep.
and all that, like, and that's what I love about Shadow Dark. Like,
Shared
do I think
language.
it's perfect? No, but it's
Sufficient.
it's,
It's
it's well,
sufficient.
it's more. Well, I don't want to say it's sufficient because it's more than sufficient. Like, but it hits that sweet spot. It hits that sweet
Maybe
spot where you
not
can build
sufficient for you. It's sufficient
whatever.
for your players.
Well, no.
They
You're
can
missing
all
my
engage.
point. Sufficient. When you say sufficient from a logical standpoint, it's the lowest bar. Like you
Oh,
met,
yeah. Okay. No,
and I'm saying it's
I get
more
what
than
you're saying.
sufficient. It's
Yeah.
just not my favorite thing. Lamentations is my favorite thing. Okay, so Shadow Dark, like, because of its ability, you can build stuff off, and
Utility. Yeah.
you can get things like Shadow Rim, and if you're a creative game master and you understand like what Shadow Dark is trying to do, you can create your own thing, and you can have your own Shadow Rim. So anyway,
It's funny you mentioned that
there
book
you go,
because
Chubby. I
the,
just pub. You can find this on Drive Through RPG.
it's funny you bring up that book because
That'll be $250. No, I'm
if
just
my
kidding.
players really once my Isles of St. Andric, the Midnight Sun group, once they finish, if they really enjoy the setting, Shadow Rim is like where I want them to go to next. And
Yeah.
that was
It's
originally
a
now
really nice hex crawl. It
if
really is.
yeah,
Brian,
and so that's what
I
they're
have a
doing. They're doing a hex crawl. They wouldn't know that, by the way, that's the words for it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, isn't that great?
They're so
hey,
awesome. They have the map and they're detailing it. It's just beautiful, Matt. You'd love it. But anyway,
anytime, Chubby. Hey,
Anytime,
I
brother.
have a question for you because you have run more Shadow Dark than probably everybody I know put together. Can you make this? Have you used it yet? Have you thought about using it? Are you even using retainers in your game?
no and no. We've not gotten that far because it's been so much of exploration, and we're in Midnight Sun right now, which there's not a lot of opportunity for mass combat. So there's that. And then in terms of like the retainer piece, they're still just exploring hex by hex, choosing where they want to go. They deliberately avoided going to a town so they could go explore a shrine. They're spending days out in the wild, and we're just not even there yet. And I've had zero plans. It's my least prepped and least planned campaign I've ever run. But I have those in my back pocket because if there's
Yeah.
the chance for an epic conflict of Nordic warfare, I do I would almost guarantee, unless there's something else coming that is official codified that Kelsey does, I'll use Helm March. I'll use
Yeah.
that.
I don't foresee her, for some reason, I don't foresee her adding a lot of rules. That's just me. I don't think,
Less is more.
in fact, I really kind of wonder what she is gonna do next. Right? Like this is coming to an end. It's not like she's gonna stop working.
Organized play will be the next frontier just to be able to continue,
Yeah,
but that doesn't
she's
require as
gotta
much
keep
from
selling
her.
shit. She's in the loop now. She's in the cycle.
Definitely.
Create, kickstart, release. You know what I mean? She's in that loop. So something's gonna have to be in the percolator after this.
Well, not necessarily. I think Shadow Dark, unlike Morkborg, is positioned to break out of the niche
Fuck more.
air. Well, I know, because Morkborg fucking sucks. It's such a lame fucking system, and the people who created it are terrible human beings. But in my opinion, but like it's very similar to Morkborg in the sense that it gives you a skeleton and you can build off of it. But Morkborg has got like this unique niche tone because it wants to be Lamentations and it'll never be. Whereas Shadow Dark is like the 5e alternative. It's like your generic general fantasy. So I think because of that, it's in this unique position to break out of being a niche thing. She needs to get into gaming stores. That's the next move, in my opinion.
Hence the
Distribution,
name. That's
distribution. Uh, Professor Dungeon Master, who has six figures, subscribers, is going to get her to the Adventure Conquer King level with levels 10 through 20, right?
He's
And
not
I'm
doing
sure
Omnigen shit though, right?
Oh no, I don't know what he's gonna. I have no idea what he's doing. All I'm saying is he's going in that direction. I'm sure there's some kind of licensing agreement that she would have been crazy not to do something like that, and he would be crazy not to agree to it because they're like great bedfellows, right? They could
I
totally
have
promote it.
no idea. You're so far beyond what I think about when I'm thinking about games. I'm
Well,
just like,
I'm sorry, it's the lawyer in me. I'm just thinking business, right? So she's got the following, she's got the celebrity status. I mean, people like the game, and like I said, it's in that position where it's going to be more than Morkborg. It already is. Distribution, get into the gaming stores, do what you're doing, have more people doing what you're doing, Brian, playing the game publicly and getting people in and buying it. Like when I went, this was like almost a year ago. I went into my local gaming store and I was just like, oh, it was during the Kickstarter, and I was like, oh, hey guys, did you blah blah blah? Talking to them, and they were actually embarrassed. They're like, yeah, no, we didn't. So even they knew that they fucked up, right? And then a month later, I saw some Shadow Dark on the shelves. You see what I'm saying? So like,
nice.
that's what she did. I
It's
20
funny.
years ago 20 years ago I would probably be like, oh, no one will ever defeat D&D.
well,
I
here's
just think times are different.
It's funny.
possibly, but I think, go
I've
ahead.
probably been responsible for selling more copies of Shadow Dark in the city of Houston than any gaming store or anyone else. Like, and
I
I've
would
taken
agree
it
with
right now
that.
as I really, and it's kind of it's so cool to support independent creators that way. But you're absolutely right, Matt. The next stage for that game to continue to stay solvent is retail, and the organized play piece is going to be the next frontier for that. What I would love, my dream, would be for her to start doing things back to her roots of adventure compilations to show a lot of these new players how they can start to kind of really create something besides just the quick card, one page dungeons or
Yeah,
if I
yeah, I
I
agree with that.
to
I agree
bring
with
back
that.
to her roots because she's such a wonderfully gifted adventure designer and
Yeah,
writer in
I would
general.
agree with that. And just to sort of
Is this
preview
just
something
out
that
of
I'm about to publish, like I'm gonna do my Living Darkness Volume 1 is gonna have basically 4 adventures. And I'd like to see more of that because like Shadow Dark, yeah, as a toolkit is fantastic, but you need to have more than just here's your one page dungeon because then it starts to feel kind of board gamey. You need to
Yeah.
start building that implied setting, like the red box set, Gary, that you love to talk about so much. Like you need to have that, and I'd
but
like
I
to, and
think
that's why I really want to see what the Western Reaches ends up being because that's going to be the next stepping stone. Anyway, go ahead, Gary.
regardless of all the business, this and that, like I don't I that as a consumer, I shouldn't have to care about any of that. I don't care about any of that. She has a customer base that wants more shit on their shelf. And that's what made this, and that's what's going to sustain this. So something has to be coming next beyond stores and play and all that. So it has to be
I
because you got
you're
to
not
support your
wrong.
game.
You're right. You're not wrong, but you also have to build the player base, and there is a large group of people who don't know what drive through RPG is. They're not on your
Agreed.
mailing list, so I think retail is a very important. Otherwise, if all you're doing, and I don't want to name names here, but we were talking about this company before the stream. You're it's like an echo chamber at that point because you're only making product for this insular group. So, um, but yeah, so you're not wrong, but but at the same time, she needs to grow, and
Yeah,
and she
absolutely. Well,
needs
those
to,
things have to happen at the same time. It's
uh,
not like it's
and
you do
that's why,
this, you do that, and you
I'm
do
saying,
that.
and
You got to
that's why
do
I'm saying,
all of them.
Professor, I would love to have been a fly on the wall in those discussions because I am willing to bet Professor Dungeon Master, and if he didn't, he's an idiot. And if she didn't, she's an idiot. The two of them getting together to be like, oh, you're going to make levels 10 through 20? Like, you know, I'm worm tongue whispering in the ears, like, oh
Oh
my
boy.
God, you could totally, like, what are you doing? Like,
Well,
Well,
anyway.
the
that's
the,
lawyer
the thing with
brain.
these
No, I'm sorry, that's my lawyer brain. But yeah, but I'm
these
serious. But go ahead.
the thing to remember, just one thing to kind of keep everything in check is remember that these are independent ventures. Both Professor DM and Kelsey are working through a lot of other things in their lives besides just games. And it takes time and it might be 2 years before we see the next big thing from Arcane Library. So and
I agree.
I'm patient enough to wait for it because the quality of what we've gotten is so good. So, if you have to wait a few years for the next great album, I'd rather, her take her time. So,
I
Bacon, Merry Christmas, sir. Thank you so much for being here as always.
cheers,
when
Bacon.
you're
Uh,
when you're talking
hap-
about the quality of the product,
I'm trying to have a sentimental
Brian.
moment with Bacon right now.
Sorry,
Gary's
Bacon. Merry
talking.
Christmas.
Uh,
Night night.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Love you, man.
Take
But
care, brother.
I think when I understand what you're talking about. Like I don't want just shit coming out that's going to be forgotten the next day. Um, but I don't think this is one of those things that's a hobby anymore for Arcane Library, right? Like it's
it hasn't
not.
been a
It's
hobby for
like
her
it's
for 6 years.
exactly. This
Yeah.
is a job, and I just think I think continually supporting your product with new content is important, and the only thing that offsets that, and I'll give credit to some of our friends, are guys like Chubby and Erudite who are putting out new things that you can add to your game, and I think that fills the gap. But I don't think anything really fills it unless it has her name on it right now.
Yeah.
Does
Well,
that make
that's fair.
sense?
No, yeah, it
Yeah.
totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. But again, what she has is her mailing list, Discord, and what people are talking about on YouTube. All right. I use my gaming group, my in-person gaming group, kind of as a litmus test. They don't know Drive Through RPG. I say Bro SR, they think I'm speaking a second language. You know what I mean? Like they're not tapped in. And they go to the gaming store and see something cool, and then they ask me about it. And it's funny because then I'll go, "Oh, I was thinking about that like 9 months ago." You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I'm tapped in, right? Um, so if Shadow Dark started popping up more and more in retail stores, I just think that's the next step for her to like expand the customer base. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see. I think Professor Dungeon Master's thing is going to help keep it afloat a little while, where she doesn't have to think too hard on something new.
Hey, it's
Same
Flint.
thing. Same thing with Chubby stuff. You know.
No, it's Doc.
No, Flint just
Sorry.
came in. I
Yeah,
thought
Flint's in here as well. Yeah,
Oh,
and then we
Flint's here
got
too. Hey,
and we
what's up,
got Doc
Flint?
Flamingo. Holy shit!
Hey, Flint. I've been
What's
watching
up,
your
Doc?
videos. I've been watching your videos about playing D&D with the kids, and I want to. You might be getting a message. I want to talk to you about that because I'm
Yeah,
trying to play
yeah.
D&D with my kids, but my kids are little fucking insurgents, man. I started. They're so bad, dude. This has been a week, bro. But I do. We need to have a talk about that sometime.
So,
So
but anyway,
it's late, bro.
I know we went an extra 30 minutes, and we got. I'm
And it
sorry,
was all
Flint
Shadow
and
Dark. If I'd have drank every time someone said Shadow Dark tonight, I would be
Yeah.
dead.
I'm this beer I got. It's this wonderful German beer called Benedictiner. It's a Weiss beer. Shit, it's got like a high alcohol content. I'm pretty fucking tipsy after 4 fucking pints.
Yeah.
Whew.
Well, hey, before we head out, and just in case I don't get
All
to
right.
say anything, I wanted to bring a couple things up. I should have brought this up at the beginning of the show. Here recently, Flint has been putting out some videos that I found pretty entertaining. Where he's playing a game, I guess, with high school kids or school age, whatever. And it's a lot of fun. Chubby is turning out some great
great content.
videos.
Great content.
Like
Yep.
like Chubby, your stuff is really
Insightful.
really good. And all I have to say is like I just want to give Adderall a hug and tell it thanks for keeping Chubby in that chair, learning how to do new shit. Good job, man. Those videos are great, and everybody should check them out. And I think that's all I have. Monsters are cool, but I like armies of stormtroopers better.
Real quick. Looking forward to it, Doc. I have Age of Blood and Iron. I want to do some review videos on it soon. It's an interesting 2d6 system. It's on Drive Through RPG. Please check it out. It's a very interesting fantasy 2d6 system. And I will be doing an actual, I think we're going to be recording it, but Doc will be running it, I guess, starting in February. I'm really looking forward to that. As far as Bestiaries is concerned, if it's not like historically accurate, where it's got like all kinds of cool stuff that allows me to do some cool shit, I want something random and unique and crazy for my Bestiaries.
Lego Monster Overhaul. It has all the context. So
All right, chat. You guys have been great as always. We love you guys.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone.
Yes. Have a Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Next week will be the 26th, the day after Christmas. We hope to see you here. Brian, I hope to see you here as well. I can't remember if you're going to be available or not, but you're obviously welcome.
I am open. I only have 2 more games scheduled before the end of the year. So one's tomorrow and one's following.
Cool.
Yep,
Because we're basically going to talk about like year in review, but also looking forward. And I really want to hear from you. Like, what are you hoping to see more of? And I want to like kind of, because let's face it, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of playing it by ear, winging it. So I want to hear from you guys. And I have an extra copy of Barrows and Borderlands. So we're going to do a giveaway next week as well. So hope to see you here. And in the meantime, Merry Christmas to you and yours. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful holiday with your family. And yeah, well, but with that, our watch is ended. Take care, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Good night.
Dude, get up. I think I heard something.